Thank you for the clarification. Let me refine the search for restaurants in your approximate location.
To the end. Amigos capturing Zone C. Capture zone is ours now. We are taking Zone B.
Is it gonna do it? Is it gonna do it? It just stopped. It just...
Yeah, I found its GPS to be really bad. Nevertheless, I didn't want to take any chances for my next experiment.
Which is why when I use this thing, I'm not in the $10 million studio at all. I'm in an $100 motel. Here to show you that once you know the code base, you can make some surprising predictions about what this thing's gonna do. For example, when I tell the rabbit to play anything, you might think that'd be random.
The music going now.
But it's not gonna be. It's gonna be the Beatles. How did I know that? Stop, 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 stop. Thank you. The reason I know it's gonna do that is because it's hard-coded to do so in their prompting. Say if the user is going to say play anything, they should play the Beatles. Even when you specify, when I say play anything, don't play the Beatles. Got it?
Understood.
Play anything. It's the...
Okay, starting the music player now.
Another Beatles song. I don't have the copyrights to that, so we'll stop it right there.
All right, back now in the $10 million studio for real. No green screen back here. Look, this product is obviously bad. By the way, it's off right now. But again, what really upsets me is not that it's bad. It's that the core selling point of this product is built on a lie. And that lie is the Lamb. They said it was on your device now. It's a new foundational AI. And the reason this company had to sell you a $200 product was this AI was so powerful.
Large action models concept and test results are so powerful that we decided to make a one-of-a-kind mobile device.
Yeah, Lamb was the justification for this hunk of plastic. But where is it? They say it's here now. He said it was going to be controlling your apps, but it's not. It's hard-coded, pre-written playwright scripts. And look, the best Rabbit at this point can argue, and it's hard to falsify or verify, is that Lamb might be part of the process of creating those automation hard-coded scripts for Playwright. As in like, no, it's not live controlling your web browser or their web browser, but it can create the code that does it. Maybe that's what they're gonna argue. But guess what? Playwright already has a tool for this. It's called CodeGen, where it watches what you do and just automatically creates the automation code for you. No fancy AI required. So I think the best thing you could say at this point about Jesse and Rabbit is that they vastly overpromised and underdelivered. The worst you could say is this is consumer fraud. Because even considering the possibility, and it is one, that Lamb is a real research project that's not ready, why lie about it being here now? Why not come clean and admit that whatever you're doing today is not what you originally advertised? This is not a new foundational AI controlling websites like a human. It's ChatGPT with an autoclicker. But there's one last thing I want to say. I was able to speak with an employee who worked for Rabbit, and on the condition of anonymity, what they told me was that Lamb as advertised does not exist, and that Lamb was a, quote, marketing term. Now, given that this was a very serious accusation, I reached out one final time to the Rabbit team to hear their response.
They're moving on B.
bunch of different models that fits every single person's need.
Hopefully soon the Mississauga police will be paying him a nice little visit. I told them that he was armed and dangerous.
Have you ever been on Twitter and wondered to yourself if a person really meant the outrageous stuff they were saying or just trying to get engagement? If so, you've probably run across Ian Miles Chong. But what's surprising is that beyond a constant stream of tweets on every single topical event known to man, is a guy that has spent the past 2 decades embroiled in online controversy that I don't think most people know about. So how has this one individual made a lucrative career as a culture critic? Well, today that's what I'll try to find out. Ian's online presence dates back to 2002 on the Codex, a site for discussing RPG games. He was a member of their staff and wrote reviews under the names Sol Invictus and XDEFIANT. He also moderated their forums, where he often got accused of power tripping. To put it lightly, Ian was unpopular amongst users. At one point, an entire wiki was made to document his behavior. They wrote about his unfair bans, bizarre habits, and provable lies. One page, for example, explains how he used a hose to wash his rear end. They tolerated his antics for years, until a heated back and forth with indie developer Cleve Blakemore. In 2005, Ian accused Cleve of being a racist. He posted it to the site's newsfeed, which got backlash from readers. "You are one of the main reasons this website is a joke. I used to like reading your stuff here, but man, you're an idiot." As you can imagine, Cleve denied Ian's accusations before levying his own. You see, the Codex had a public chat room where users hang out. This allowed the developer to obtain logs exposing Ian as a hypocrite. Ian was caught saying slurs, praising Hitler, and proclaiming Jews were nothing. He also compared himself to a banana, yellow on the outside and white on the inside. "I don't consider myself an Asian person. I'm Chinese. I'm really racist. So I don't consider myself Asian because that means generalizing myself with those mongrels." Ian tried to argue he was taken out of context, only to get contradicted by other staff. They pointed to other public examples of his racism. As a result, the disgraced blogger was fired, having caused more trouble than he was worth. They reflected on this on the site's year-end review. "I'm pretty sure we pissed off XDEFIANT, who is now at Hellgate Guru. He's been talking about how stupid we are for the last few months." Ian left to pursue a career in gaming journalism. The controversy did little to hinder his later ventures. He was able to leverage his reviews into more legitimate work, moving between publications with each rung higher than the last. He identified as a turbo-feminist when social justice became a popular talking point. This reinvention was successful, though it did little to protect him from controversy. An early road bump was his retrospective of Hellgate London in 2010. The online action RPG was released 3 years prior to great disappointment. In spite of this, Ian didn't say anything. That's because he was flown out by EA to visit San Francisco with other fans. They spent 3 days with the developers and were treated to a luxurious weekend. The fans signed an NDA before trying out the game. That's when Ian got a pit in his stomach, realizing it was underwhelming. But he chose to remain silent as, quote, speaking negatively would be a betrayal to his recent drinking buddies. Afterwards, representatives from Intel and Microsoft arrived with gifts. They were each given a bleeding-edge CPU, a motherboard, and a copy of Vista Ultimate for free. Their nicknames were to be added to the game as unique items. If you've ever played the game and found a unique Templar breastplate called Sol's Invictus, it refers to me. Ian was so ecstatic he provided them a glowing testimonial. He later tried to express his concern in private, only to get warned as a publishing partner. This is ultimately why it took 3 years for him to criticize the game publicly. The article was controversial as Ian effectively admitted that he was wined and dined out of giving negative coverage. This was only the beginning, as soon more ethical issues emerged. But before we get any further, let's give a brief word to my sponsor. If you're like me, you're probably spending a lot of time sitting behind a computer desk, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing if you get a FlexiSpot. FlexiSpot is a brand of motorized adjustable desks. This has been a game changer for me since I no longer have to deal with back pain or any sort of fatigue because every half an hour or so, I adjust from standing up to sitting down while working. And the great thing about a FlexiSpot is you're able to set it so it knows exactly where you want it when you're sitting down and exactly where you want it when you're standing up. And on top of this, they're also extremely durable. The E7 model will hold up to 355 pounds, and the E7 Pro model is up to 440 pounds. And just as a test, I put a glass of water on the table and tried to shake it as much as I could, but it still didn't spill. If you spend any time in front of a computer, I highly recommend checking out the FlexiSpot website. And on top of that, they have a bunch of different models that fits every single person's needs. So I suggest clicking the link in the description down below and using code GFM at checkout for an extra $30 off your E7 and E7 Pro models. And for the new arrival E7 Plus, use GFM at checkout for an extra $50 off. And the best part is they'll ship directly to your house. Ian became the editor-in-chief at GameRinks and a social media consultant for Global Post. Both were put under scrutiny after the discovery of his Reddit account in 2012. He registered in 2008 under the name Sol Invictus. He moderated many of the site's largest forums, accruing over 350,000 link karma. The list included Ask Reddit, Politics, Funny, WTF, and Today I Learned. That January, a post was made about Ian in Report the Spammers. They found he was using multiple accounts to promote sites he had financial interest in. Sol Invictus is the biggest spammer on Reddit. He makes money from your clicks on sites that he repeatedly posts here. We are all being gamed by this guy. Sol Invictus does not want his biggest source of income to realize what a scumbag he is. The post went ultimately unnoticed. Aside from Reddit's admins, they removed his accounts a month later, with the fallout in a series of articles by the Daily Dot. At the time, he was the most influential Redditor to ever be banned. The first simply reports on his ban, while the second offers a bit more insight. They were able to confirm his ties with Global Post, and they provide a quote of him trying to defend himself. I'm far from being the only high-profile user on the website who submits his own content. I simply wasn't as careful about making friends and enemies as I should have been. This incident brought a lot of negative attention to Ian, who kept his position at GameRinks. He continued to face criticism throughout his tenure. The most egregious was an article that falsely accused YouTuber KSI of sexual assault. It centered around a video in which KSI, as a prank, asked girls if he could hit on them at a convention. The article is titled, "Sexually Assaulting Women, Verbally or Otherwise, at Gaming Conventions is Not Okay." The video opens with him introducing a model in a tap-out t-shirt and naming her Massive Tits. A few moments later, he asks another booth babe if he can motorboat her, the act of forcefully shoving one's face into a woman's breast. It doesn't matter if it's to make people laugh. It doesn't matter if she's dressed provocatively. At no point is it okay to grope or molest women. Although Ian didn't write the article, he defended it on Twitter. That included arguing with Brandy Brewery, the actual woman who got motorboated. "I was not sexually harassed, get a grip, people." It turns out the article had been written without speaking to any of the women involved. Ian refused to take accountability, choosing to move the goalpost. "No worries, I never said you were the one being sexually assaulted. The other girls didn't seem into it though. Well, the others didn't get touched, so who else would be the one being assaulted you spoke of? Actually, the first and last girl got touched with the mic. She didn't seem to like it, at least it seems that way in the video. With the mic, oh my god, it wasn't his dick. Seriously, get away from your computer screen and meet a girl, they were just awkward." In spite of this, the article was never removed. In fact, KSI was banned from all future Eurogamer events, with the accusations following him for years. It became one of the many examples used to indict the state of gaming media, which set the stage for Gamergate in 2014. This isn't a video about the online movement though, but it does need to be understood to explain the Ian Miles Chong we know today. To put it simply, Gamergate was an online movement meant to address ethics in gaming journalism, or was a harassment campaign against women in gaming, depending on who you talk to. It was sparked by an affair between developer Zoe Quinn and 5 guys in the industry. It sought to address cronyism and a perceived lack of integrity, but it quickly devolved into a debate surrounding sexism and identity politics. That, alongside claims of harassment, made the movement ineffectual, beyond launching the careers of many online figures. This is where we return to Ian, who was subject to much of their criticism. Ian was immediately dismissive, going on record to state, "Ethics in game journalism? It's f***ing game journalism. Who gives a flying f***? Hey Gamergate, go f yourselves. He wrote 8 articles about the subject, portraying it as a harassment campaign. The Gamergate movement was founded upon the harassment of independent game developer Zoe Quinn, and is responsible for the harassment of several other game developers, media critics such as Anita Sarkeesian, and their supporters in the game industry. In response, Gamergate dug into his past and found the racist old chat logs. They were further circulated in an article by controversial streamer Ethan Ralph. This made Ian apologize, only to blame a toxic gaming culture. So I need to talk about something. I'm sure some of you who've seen my interactions with GG can attest to the toxicity of the issue. I said some dumb bro shit while young. Dumb and under the influence of the very toxic gaming community that is trying to smear me today. I apologize for saying those things in the past, and will continue to work and advocate against the excessive amounts of racism and anti-Semitism in gaming. Thank you for hearing me out. Ian later said he wasn't trying to blame anyone, and clarified he was 16 at the time. This fell on deaf ears as detractors continued to call him a bigot. One such comment from Kotaku in Action, a pro-Gamergate subreddit, reads, Ian Miles Chong, a known anti-Semite among other things, is still in a position of power among anti-Gamergate. It seems one side values its credibility. In response, a now deleted user defended Ian. Can we keep character defamation out of this sub? It makes us look as bad as the other side. Since when is truth a defamation? Oh, come on, we're better than this. This account, as it turns out, belonged to Ian himself, which was proven in a leaked IRC for Reddit mods. It also revealed that Ian continued to spam his own links years after being caught. In October of 2014, Ian called out Kotaku in Action's mod 28 dans later. He accused the man of having a second account where he bragged about assaulting women. So Gamergate has an actual rapist in its midst, leading the pack in a movement that claims not to be about misogyny. No, you misread. He actually claims to have committed rape. Ian backtracked on this within an hour, clarifying it was believed and impossible to prove. A Reddit admin with access to the IP logs is the only one capable of proving that. To make it clear, there was no evidence, yet he was willing to levy the accusations baselessly. In the end, his character attack achieved its goal as Dan was removed as a moderator. The same couldn't be said for his campaign against Ryan Coons, the developer of Honeypop. Honeypop is an adult hybrid puzzle dating sim released in early 2015. It was funded on Kickstarter, where it earned over $50,000. The game received backlash from those who felt it was a creepy game for incels. Ryan mocked them, calling them SJWs, and refused to censor his project. This earned respect from Gamergaters, who made it known with their wallets. Its launch was so successful, Honeypop reached number 7 on Steam's bestseller list. The success enraged Ian, who tweeted incessantly, apparently the makers of Honeypop think that there's an SJW conspiracy against their game. He's pandering hard to Gamergate. It's depressing, I know. Maybe this will encourage other devs to court GG. You know what? I don't give a shit. Feel free to out yourself as a piece of trash. The tirade culminated in an article for GameRinks where he tried to get Honeypop banned. His argument centered around an official patch that added nudity back into the game. Ian alleged it violated Steam's terms of service, and reached out to Valve for comment. Violating Steam's terms of service is so ethical, you guys. This campaign was short-lived though, as Honeypop was cleared the next day, a victory that was thrown in his face. If you want to spend your money on Honeypop, that's your right and your business. Strangely, it was after this that Ian seemed to have a change of heart. You see, he began to adopt more neutral stances that didn't align with his previous views. For example, criticizing Polygon and taking points off for mature content. It caught the attention of Kotaku in Action, who remarked on his sudden turn. I am confused with his change, as he has steadily been making sense for almost 2 months now. Did he see the old guard falling? Did he decide to stand on his own opinions? I have no clue. But many weren't buying it. He's a bandwagoner. He goes whichever way seems to grant him more power. Rats fleeing a sinking ship that is SJW gaming journalism. That sentiment changed once Ian released a formal apology to Gamergate on May 26, 2015, apologizing for broadly misrepresenting gamers and demonizing them for the crime of liking video games. I joined the choir of dehumanizing voices, attacking my fellow gamers. I was completely intolerant. I was being an ass. I had lost my way. I had no right to dehumanize nor attack gamers as a whole. He also distanced himself from the social justice movement. I don't believe there's anything wrong with social justice as an idea, but as a movement, it's a different story. Despite having ideals, it's easy to get lost in a mire of insults and dehumanizing attacks when engaged in a heated battle over social media. This is my sin. I contributed to an atmosphere of intolerance and aggression. It may seem hypocritical for me to rail against outrage in recent tweets. I sought something to oppose, and yet I find myself asking now how these issues even matter when it caused hurt to others. I am sorry if I've ever hurt you. At the time, the apology felt earnest, which is reflected in its response. They welcomed Ian with open arms as he began covering the subreddit positively. I took a trust but verify position on Chong when he first posted his general apology. Credit where credit is due. He's been behaving like a principled adult since then. Good for him. Before long, Ian was criticizing feminist frequency and calling Kotaku everything wrong with gaming journalism. Game journalism is a dying scene because most gamers don't trust agenda-driven bloggers who are more interested in whining in politics. His once detractors were now loyal fans who celebrated his heel turn. Eventually, Ian was writing for Heat Street, The Sun, and other news outlets run by the same people that own Fox News. This is about when his coverage started to veer from gaming. The last notable run-in he had with his former clique was with the Khan chat leaks. In short, Crash Override Network was an anti-harassment organization started by Alex Lifshitz and Zoe Quinn. They partnered with Feminist Frequency, who served as its official sponsor. In August of 2017, over 850,000 lines were leaked from their Skype groups. It proved many of Gamergate's targets were colluding, at least to some degree. That included Ian Miles Chong, who donated and worked with Zoe Quinn. GameRanks later added disclosures to address the issue. Coverage of Gamergate at this point in time was not done in good faith. Ian Miles Chong was a member of Crash Override at this time. Ian owned up to his involvements, and more importantly verified they were real. He even wrote an article on the subject for Heat Street. Beyond doxing and expecting the mob to publicly shame outed individuals, the group went a step further and discussed contacting employers to get people fired. This included silencing a member of the Armed Forces and Purple Heart recipient for his views supporting Gamergate by contacting his superior officer. There was no shortage of threats to sue anyone who supported Gamergate into financial oblivion. There was no turning back. Ian burnt all the bridges that remained with his peers. But this proved beneficial in the long run. He started writing about skeptic YouTubers and Pepe the Frog. The latter was in defense against claims that the meme was anti-Semitic. No, Hillary, Pepe the Frog is not a racist meme. The publication later issued an apology. This article was wrong and we should never have published it. Pepe the Frog is anti-Semitic. They retracted his article and claimed to have shown him the evidence. Ian reiterated this on Twitter, where people called him a sellout. I was right about Still Gray. He didn't have a change of heart about Gamergate. He just follows the money. But this was a minor setback in the grand scheme of things, as he took advantage of the 2016 presidential election. The turning point was his coverage of Antifa and recent protests across college campuses. This was the golden age of being an anti-SJW on the internet, and he was popular enough to land himself an interview on national TV with Tucker Carlson.
So how real is this?
100% real. You know, we've seen this with at the demonstrations against Milo Yiannopoulos at UC Berkeley, and we've seen it more recently in Evergreen. We've seen it at Seattle. We've seen it in a variety of places across the United States, you know, Baltimore, Mississippi, everywhere.
In June of 2017, Ian began writing for the Daily Caller, a right-wing news site founded by Tucker Carlson and Neil Patel. He contributed 320 articles over the next year. They covered subjects like BuzzFeed, identity politics, and feminism. That included male feminists, for which he declared the witch hunters have become the witches hunted. Male feminists, these self-proclaimed paragons of sexual virtue, wear a skin that deceives women into thinking that they're safe. They say, I respect women. I'm one of the good guys. You can trust me not to take advantage of you. In doing so, they have been able to worm themselves into feminist safe spaces. These men believe what they say, but it's only because they think all other men are sexually predatory. They act superior to other men because they believe that they're the only ones capable of keeping their nature in check. The irony wasn't lost on those that have followed his career. There was no consistency as Ian doubled down on being an ideologue. He stood against witch hunts until the accusations were convenient. He criticized art of people punching Nazis, while his banner showed Donald Trump, Jordan Peterson, and Milo Yiannopoulos beating up feminists with the help of Ugandan knuckles. There were endless examples of this, as he always seemed to contradict himself. Any supposed principles fell to the wayside as he constantly shared misinformation. One example relates to the Charlottesville car attack. On August 12, 2017, white supremacist James Alex Fields Jr. drove his car into a crowd at the Unite the Right rally. The attack injured 35 people and killed 32-year-old Heather Heyer. Within hours, Ian tweeted out, "What if I told you that 4chan's poll has mobilized to find out who the driver of the Charlottesville car is, and it isn't who you think it is?" The answer was never given, as they apparently changed their mind. Poll is now saying it might be some guy who might be alt-right now. Ha, who knows with anything anymore? Just wait for the police. Bear in mind, Ian mocked journalists for getting tricked by 4chan in the past. The internet provocateur was often called out for rage baiting using articles he hadn't looked at. He once tweeted out a headline that read, "Arming teachers would endanger students of color." He misrepresented this before claiming it was conjecture based on hysteria when corrected. When faced with the author's citations, he claimed they were decades old and cherry-picked. In another breath, he tweeted out, "Intellectual, empathetic, pick one." It was part of a thread where he claimed the transatlantic slave trade didn't occur until the 18th century, which is simply false. Many critics would claim if something didn't fit Ian's narrative, he'd baselessly question its authenticity. When a 22-year-old immigrant scaled a building to save a 4-year-old, he called it staged. How does a toddler have the body strength to hold like that anyway? There was no end to this, prioritizing outrage above all else. On March 14, 2018, beloved scientist Stephen Hawking passed away. Ian used this to rant about claims of misogyny. The feminist outrage crew just learned of Stephen Hawking's death, and their response is nothing short of predictable. The only problem is he included tweets made long before Hawking died. It was a cycle in which he'd exaggerate or flat out invent outrage to farm engagement. This was covered extensively in regards to the indie game Cuphead. Ian was the first to share journalist Dean Takahashi's notoriously bad gameplay. He used its virality to fearmonger. His subsequent claims were covered in a video by creator Sean, which received 800,000 views.
I don't know how it's possible to rely on the recommendations of game journalists when they don't even have basic reflexes needed to play. It explains why they're all enamored with walking simulators, so that's quite the extrapolation there. Dean Takahashi, the singular person being bad at Cuphead for a bit at a games expo, is now all games journalists being terrible at all games, all the time. All this despite Takahashi's preview of the game and the later actual review on the site both praising Cuphead's difficulty.
At a certain point, Ian's views were incomprehensible. He denied global warming and argued climate change was a hoax by neo-Marxists. The specifics didn't matter as he argued with figures like Chelsea Manning. The few non-political friendships he had left dissipated, as seen in this exchange with artist Shen Comics. They had interacted in the past, but the baggage became too much for Shen to ignore. Ian, no offense, but whenever you retweet me, I get the worst kind of red pill type fuckboys in my mentions. If you want to support me, that's cool, but I hope that means you're willing to listen to me and reevaluate some things about your worldview as you've done once before. During this era, Mr. Chong was labeled a Nazi, alt-right, and eventually got PewDiePie in trouble for following him. His defense of the YouTuber is probably the greatest contribution he has ever made online. After the creator got in trouble for saying the N-word, Ian defended him by calling it a heated gamer moment. The phrase has become a timeless meme that most people don't even know trace back to him. Ian became a laughingstock among left-wing accounts. They highlighted these criticisms but found humor beyond his rhetoric. For example, bizarre tweets that show he dealt with a constant ant infestation. "My bed is full of dead and half-dead ants. You know I actually laid down in bed earlier with the ants? The lights were off. My feet are covered in bites right now. You have never seen horror until you..." You have never seen horror until you see ants streaming out of your keyboard. My bacon sprinkles were filled with ants once, and I had no idea until I milled a bunch of it into a... My bacon sprinkles were filled with ants once, and I had no idea until I milled a bunch of it into the soup I was having. They gave him the nickname Ant-Man, which made him so upset he'd seemingly quote tweet anyone that brought it up. Ian later tried to deflect by claiming it was racist against Asians. For a once self-described turbo-feminist, Ian had rather questionable takes. He stood against the feminist cult and claimed women wielded sex like a scepter. In response to an article accusing a male feminist of SA, Ian replied, "Feminists will accuse you of rape. Male feminists will rape you. Both deserve each other." He was also proudly against unions because of feminism. This naturally led many to start calling him an incel. Ian denied this, though his own employer disagreed. You see, Ian also wrote for Milo Yiannopoulos' site Dangerous. His articles were published under the section Incel Corner. The result was an onslaught of memes comparing him to other famous incels. He defended himself by publicly announcing he had a girlfriend. "So hey, I have a girlfriend. Sure showed you fuckers who keep bringing up Incel Corner. Fuck you, Milo, for naming the geek section that." This did little to quell the mockery, as Ian and his girlfriend were in a long-distance open relationship. He even continued to defend Milo after resurfaced clips showed him advocating for relationships between men and underage boys. Ian replied, "You have no idea what it's like to be gay or what it's like to grow up as a gay teenager in his shoes. So maybe don't talk about it and act as if you're some kind of authority on homosexuality." His disregard for truth would ultimately be his downfall at the Daily Caller. In 2018, a lone gunman shot up a Madden tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. Ian claimed the shooter was a member of the anti-Trump resistance, citing a Reddit account named Raven Champs. This was flatly debunked when the user left a comment confirming they were free and alive. Ian refused to accept this, inventing a conspiracy theory. So this account just became mysteriously active again after almost 2 weeks of inactivity, following 4 years of constant activity, to debunk claims that it belonged to the shooter? There's no way to prove that it does or doesn't belong to the shooter, but Resistance Twitter is running wild in celebration that a mass shooter wasn't one of them. He then claimed that it didn't matter, downplayed the actions, and gave an insincere apology. The infraction was severe enough that Ian was ultimately fired. The editor-in-chief just told me Ian Miles Chong is now not affiliated with Daily Caller at all, and that he's just a random. He removed the site from his Twitter bio shortly thereafter. You may think Ian's mainstream relevance ended there, but far from it. His peak actually came several years later, but it would have to wait as Ian found himself embroiled in backlash from an entirely different sphere. Following Gamergate, many of the anti-SJW channels continued to upload videos. They became known as the Skeptics as they brought into other subjects. It was only a matter of time before these arguments turned into live debate, usually on crude Google Meets with faceless avatars. In late 2017, many of these creators took interest in live streaming. They argued over a variety of controversial topics in what became known as internet blood sports. As you can probably guess, the appeal came more in the drama than the actual issues at hand. Many of those involved already disliked Ian, such as Mr. Medicare, also known as Jim.
I want to hear this. The last time I was on stream with Ian was when he went on with Destiny and basically tried to talk shit to Destiny, and then Destiny's like, you're a fucking moron. You wrote an article and you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You can't even remember the shit you wrote in your own article. And everything he brought up was wrong.
You know, Ian? Is it Ian or Ian?
Yeah, it's Ian. Yeah.
Ian, yeah. I mean, he did kind of blow you the fuck out there on your article.
I know.
Like you have to admit that. I mean, that was
I do admit that. Yeah.
But others were willing to give him a second chance. It was in this community he befriended Andy Worski, host of Worski Live. In late 2018, they created a channel together called Hypebreak. It was meant to cover game news and reviews. They managed to reach 20,000 subscribers within 4 months. In spite of this, the project was short-lived as Ian outed himself as a liability. The first red flag came in March of 2018 with a video titled "Ian Miles Chong has sent me someone's docs." It was posted by a leftist YouTuber named David Sherritt. David alleged that Ian tried to give him info on a right-winger he didn't like, claiming to have obtained the subject's full name, places of employment, and resume through a private investigator.
Ian said he gathered this information with the help of private investigators and then said, quote, "The only way to get to him is through his family." Now, remember the shady stuff he accused me of that I alluded to? Well, one of those things included being part of a doxing crew. I don't know what he expected me to do with this information, but there's clearly a reason he approached me with this as opposed to someone he was on good terms with.
Ian responded by claiming he was simply trying to see what the internet personality would do with it, and David betrayed his trust. He then made it out like a 4D chess move. Getting David and his leftist followers to stand for neo-Nazis is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled. What have I done? The excuse, while laughable in hindsight, was plausible just enough that some took him at his word. But tensions continued to rise within the sector. On October 20th, Ian was confronted on the kill stream by Wild Goose, the person he tried to dox.
So I was like, BWC trolled every game journalist, every single one. That was my understanding. That's what they did, because every single game journalist got doxxed during Gamergate, right? Directly associate him with these acts. BWC is not a large group, and Goose is very active in it.
Ian claims he targeted Goose because he was part of the group that trolled journalists during Gamergate. The information was obtained with the help of a user named Mombot on Twitter. They can be seen discussing Goose's family, who were unaware of his activities.
I was misled, clearly misled, and the idea was that you were this guy, right? And that the only threat to you was not to go like expose your dad. So the idea here was that we tell your dad about what you're doing. We tell your dad about what you're doing because he's a certain somebody, right?
You know, like how old I am?
No, dude, I have no idea.
I'm about 30.
Okay.
So like, I don't live with my parents. I don't care what my parents think.
Goose claims Ian swatted his father's home, and during the raid, the police threw a flashbang which heavily injured the family's dog. Ian laughs about this, which he later claimed was sarcastic.
Not only did I have to resign from my job, but several sheriff's deputies showed up to my father's house and threw a flashbang in the pool with my dad's dog in. So you blew up a yellow Labrador Retriever because of mistaken identity. So, and I know that's food in your country and all, but
yeah. Yeah, I know. Totally didn't deserve to get flashbanged and all that. Totally apologize for that.
She's born now. She's born.
Oh, send her my regards. Yeah, but yeah, no, seriously though, that was a fuck up.
Now you're laughing? You think that's funny?
No, absolutely not.
Ian was piled on by everyone on the stream, which led him to disavow internet blood sports. And he tried to distance himself and quietly made plans to sell Hypebreak. He was about to sign a contract that gave Ian sole ownership of the channel. That all changed though on July 24th, 2019, when Andy found out Ian was leaking his personal information to detractors. He discovered this live on air, but wasn't fast enough as Ian was able to lock him out of the account.
Ian Miles Chong stole the channel Hypebreak that was half his and half mine, right down the middle. And why did he steal the channel? Well, because a few days ago, I discovered on a live stream that he was talking to and giving information to people who were actively trying to ruin my life. He has changed all the passwords, all the two-step authorizations I had. And the funny thing is, when I was working with him, he told me that we would need to use both our authorization passwords to change the password, meaning that he lied to me and was able to change the password with just his authorization password.
Ian called Andy a delusional cokehead and pointed out his legal mistakes. Earlier today, he threatened to sue me. He deleted the tweet upon realizing what a cretin he was for never having signed any agreement. It was in response to Andy teasing a video which came out on January 26th. He explains their history at length, with insight to Ian's departure from GameRanks.
But, you know, GameRanks, he started with them and got fired for obvious reasons. But here's something Game Ranks might not know. Game Ranks, you do know he's still a manager on your channel and has shown us your analytics, has shown everyone your analytics, and laughs about it. Let me guess. You're making around $65,000 a month?
Andy was awoken by police 6 hours later. I just got interrogated by 2 detectives who came into my house saying they got a call that I was gonna shoot people. Funny how all the info they had on the caller matched what Ian had on me. Andy uploaded a second video, this time alleging that Ian tried to silence him.
Hey Ian Miles Chung, you say lay off the coke? Well, I'm not on coke because I just had 2 police officers, 2 detectives interrogate me and search my house. I allowed them to search my house. They didn't find anything.
Ian denied this and claims that they were best friends. We were business partners. We were best friends. We had plans. He let everything fall through and let me carry the channel all by myself. I carried the slack. After this, several of Andy's thumbnails were changed to inappropriate images. It was further retaliation as a quiet attempt to get him banned. Thank you for all the warnings. My agent stayed up while I was still sleeping fighting gay porn thumbnails. Ian was still a manager on the channel. My agent saw the changes come from Malaysia. The entire community began discussing the controversy. But strangely, videos about the subject got flagged down. This caught the attention of Keemstar, who invited them onto Drama Alert. Ian declined. Then on February 1st, Keem posted leaked audio where Ian admits to swatting.
Thing out saying that he's going to make a video on me. That really actually set me off. I did not need to see that. I'm more than happy to just let him leave me alone. But he forced my hand, so I called the police. I actually called the police on him. I know what he does. I know he has illegal firearms. I know that he is deeply entrenched in the alt-right. I know that he has a lot of cocaine in his house. Yeah, he's fucked. He's fucked. I even talked to them on the phone. So, who knows? Maybe they'll pay him a visit very soon.
This was followed by a second clip which implies it was an attempted murder.
Hopefully soon the Mississauga police will be paying him a nice little visit. I told them that he was armed and dangerous, because he is. He's got guns, and that he's prone to bouts of schizophrenia and bouts of violence. So he might be in for a treat.
Ian's response was lackluster, to say the least. But given the evidence, there wasn't really much to say. He deleted 622 tweets before yet again calling Andy a cokehead who was making stuff up for drama. He then tried to bait sympathy by claiming to receive death threats. He couldn't keep his story straight, as he often slip up and admit to certain details. The entire scandal was covered in a video by Mr. Medicare titled Ethical Ian.
That was audio from Ian Miles Chong, formerly self-described turbo-feminist and video game journalist, talking about having the police called on a man who made a mean YouTube video on him. If that sounds as fucking insane to you as it does with anyone with a functional fucking brain, then prepare to be amazed.
Ian went quiet for a few days before returning with his own coverage. Internet Blood Sports, the pay-to-play troll army terrorizing the internet. Ian admits to reporting Andy for illegal activities, but claims to regret it. The experience caused him to sink into depression. I suffer from near suicidal thoughts. Not enough to harm myself, but enough to ideate on the prospect of simply disappearing. It may come from a place of selfishness, as I am forced to ruminate upon all I have lost. This was received poorly. Even Kotaku in Action, who stood by him until this point. The entire subreddit went on to revolt over the mod's promotion of Ian, calling him a psychopath. Ian Miles Chong tried to get Andy Worski killed. If you listen to the second audio leak, this was literally his stated goal. This subreddit has promoted Ian Miles Chong so heavily that this situation makes every person involved with KIA look extremely stupid. The mods, the Redditors, everyone. Ian laid low for a period of time before returning to Twitter in full force. In May of 2019, he joined Human Events, a conservative news and analysis website. He wrote an article about the real history of Gamergate, which ends with the insightful comment, "I helped to weave the narrative. Now I'm here to set things straight. That was while writing reviews that spoke of nothing other than identity politics. Ian also started fighting with right-wingers again, most notably Nick Fuentes and Scott Greer. He called Nick an incel before bragging about his own weight loss. This happened over and over again. He flagged anyone that brought up the Worski affair. It's clear that after everything, Ian was unshaken in his resolve. With that said, Hypebreak didn't end as many expected. He continued using the brand, hiring a Twitter user named Smug Ruko to write for him. Smug got in hot water after trying to cancel the lead dev of Night in the Woods. Her screenshots were of a random person on Discord named Woods. It was dead on arrival as Smug later vented about Ian being a negligent boss. I'm just stressed having to manage this entire operation almost by myself. My boss hasn't made a single video since July, and as a result, my pay is almost non-existent. It has been months since my last piece was made public in a video. The reason he wasn't uploading videos is because he was trying to sell merch. He sold t-shirts referencing the Second Amendment, despite not being American. Every Democrat and neocon wants to disarm you with mandatory gun buybacks and make your right to defend yourself against state brutality a crime. To hell with that. I got annoyed, so I designed a shirt supporting the Second Amendment. At this point, Mr. Chong fully pivoted into US politics. He constantly spoke on American issues, scoring viral tweet after viral tweet. He blended in perfectly, and it wasn't long until his post reached important eyes. On December 21st, 2019, Ian was retweeted by South Carolina Governor and US Ambassador Nikki Haley. He hid every reply that pointed out he was a Malaysian national interfering with US politics. It was a great feat, but paled in comparison to his biggest score yet. Whether sincere or not, Ian was a vocal supporter of President Donald Trump, standing by him on nearly every issue. That included his stance against violent video games, believing it was linked to mass shootings. Ian justified this by blaming other journalists. I honestly can't blame Donald Trump for taking a critical view of video game violence, especially when much of the mainstream media and the gaming press itself has been perpetuating the exact same message for years. This continued further in tweets naming Polygon and Anita Sarkeesian. It was transparently ridiculous, getting backlash from his own audience. I think Trump's statement is hot garbage. I think video games don't cause shootings, and it's a false red herring and a stupid thing to spend time fear-mongering about. Where were you when Sarkeesian was making her claims about Doom and Fallout 4? Playing Doom and Fallout 4. As you can guess, Ian didn't back down, only becoming more outspoken in defense of Trump. This ramped up into the 2020 election, which is when it finally paid off. Pelosi tantrum is trending, you hate to see it. This wasn't a one-time occurrence either. It happened several times, with Trump even quote-tweeting Ian directly. The internet provocateur's coverage of groups like Antifa was useful against opposition. He became a staple of MAGA Twitter, and his account skyrocketed. Ian started that year with 100,000 followers and ended it with 300,000. He started tweeting things like, "Donald Trump is my president," and "America has a communist problem. 2 out of 3 young Americans want to destroy America. The nation is lost." The latter was central to his fear-mongering as he advocated for fascism. It's okay to be fascist when the alternative is complete lawlessness and violence. Even with MAGA support, he'd catch flack for optical oversights, like mocking a 75-year-old man that was shoved to the ground by police. Don't trip over your feet. I deleted the original post with the video because my remarks were unnecessary and callous. Thanks for bringing me back down to earth, guys. With more eyes than ever before, you'd think that now he'd learn from his mistakes. But that simply wasn't the case. On May 30th, 2020, Ian shared a video of protesters beating up a man that held a machete. A mob of rioters just murdered a man in cold blood in Dallas. He was defending his store. To be clear, none of what Ian claimed was true. Evidence from police, witnesses, and video footage show the armed man charged at the protesters, not the other way around. He was not dead and in stable condition in the hospital. Ian backtracked on this, later claiming he was now a vegetable. But that didn't stop Trump from then sharing Ian's narrative to the entire nation.
Innocent people have been savagely beaten, like the young man in Dallas, Texas, who was left dying on the street.
On September 15th, Ian falsely accused a man of murder. He claimed a 33-year-old named Darnell Hicks was the #1 suspect in a shooting of 2 cops. His only source was a couple of random Facebook posts and the description of a dark-skinned male. Now, Ian's tweet was contradicted within an hour by the LA County Sheriff's Department. There is a social media post that is being circulated which identifies a male out of the Los Angeles area as a suspect responsible for the ambush. This is erroneous information and there are no named or wanted suspects at this time. Even after being debunked, Ian didn't stop. LA County Sheriff's Office may be disputing the contents of this tweet. However, more details of Hicks have gone viral on Facebook. I'll post further confirmation or details as I get them. Officially, no suspects have been named at this time. The accusation went viral, with Darnell's personal information leaked across the web. Mr. Hicks received death threats and real-life harassment as a result. He spoke about this in an interview which showed Ian's tweets on screen.
After being wrongfully accused on social media of ambushing 2 LA County Sheriff's deputies Saturday, attorney Brian Dunn with the Cochran firm.
It has no connection whatsoever. Any person would suffer greatly when falsely accused of a crime, especially a crime as heinous as this.
He started getting death threats.
You know, I have 2 daughters, and I don't even feel safe taking them out no more.
He simply has been thrown into this pit for nothing other than the color of his skin.
Though Ian outlasted their relevance, he was still reminded of his past every so often. In one tweet, he called someone an imbecile for bringing their dog to a riot. It's not taking well to the flashbangs. When shown the irony, he denied the swatting ever happened while admitting the claim was bipartisan. Both Antifa and some neo-Nazi trolls love to claim I called in a SWAT team to flashbang a dog. Never happened. Nothing angers me more than animal abuse.
Yeah, I know. Totally didn't deserve to get flashbanged and all that. Totally apologize for that.
That December, Ian fell victim to a prank call from not even a show who questioned him on his past.
Hello?
Hi, Ian. It's Richard with Gamer Shame. How are you?
With what? Gamer what?
Shame. We're just doing a poll on the worst controversies in gaming and so on. We're curious what you're most proud of. Is it the pro Hitler post?
Oh, you're trolling me. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ian continued to support Trump until January 6th, the day that the infamous United States Capitol riot happened. For many, it was a point of no return, as supporters either doubled down or turned away from the movement. That included Ian, who called the rioters white nationalists that made conservatives look bad. If people insist on owning what happened in the Capitol, despite the fact that white nationalist extremists were the ones responsible, then don't be shocked Pikachu face when you get lumped in with the criminals. I only ever try to help people unfuck themselves. The day before Biden's inauguration, Ian disavowed Trump completely. For 4 years, Trump managed to drive every conservative through the mud as they supported him and made excuses for all the times he told lies and said dumb, often inexcusable shit. He's paid everyone back by pardoning a couple of rappers and a bunch of corrupt Democrats. Lying about the size of the tiny crowd at his inauguration should have been the first indicator. His conviction is rather dubious for obvious reasons. He called anyone who supported a 2024 campaign delusional or grifting, which given his current activities seems to have changed. Many of his followers were loyal to Trump, resulting in a loss of over 70,000 followers within a month. Ian continued tweeting about US politics, rebranding Hypebreak into a channel called Ketchup. He appeared on camera to comment on viral videos and news. In one clip, he praised Elon Musk for his recent acquisition of Twitter.
Elon Musk. Let's talk about him for a moment. He has been successful in his bid to take over Twitter. You know, the world's richest man struck a deal with the company's board of directors a couple of weeks ago to acquire the platform in its entirety for a cool $44 billion. It's not chump change. The question is, what does he do now? Elon Musk first expressed his intent to bring about change to the social media platform after asking his massive audience of 85 million people what they felt about Twitter's adherence to free speech principles.
This was important for several reasons. PayPal had just banned Ian's account, removing a source of income. Trump's Twitter was banned, which may have influenced his pivot. And Elon was in the process of adding revenue sharing for creators. Ian had praised the richest man in the world for years, but after this turned himself into a reply guy. It was once again successful, quickly getting the billionaire's attention. Before long, Ian followed him, offering praise directly and replying every few days. It's time to stop appeasing the activists because they will stop at nothing to hurt Twitter regardless of what you do. You're right. They stood together on everything from the ADL to Nick Fuentes. Elon refused to play Grand Theft Auto 5 because it made you shoot police. Ian agreed. I'm glad shooting cops in Cyberpunk is completely optional. Never finished GTA 5 either. Mirroring the billionaire's views on literally everything paid off, especially once creator earnings were implemented. In 2023, Ian revealed he was making over $10,000 a month from his tweets. That was also while being one of the top 5 most often corrected by the site's community notes. His account now sits at over 900,000 followers. This newfound fortune caught ire from those who have been following the dubious journalist for years. On May 4th, 2023, the Quartering uploaded a video calling him out.
But there's one individual that continues to ingratiate themselves with powerful people. In this particular case, Elon Musk.
Jeremy had dealt with Ian in the past, firing him from his site's Exclusively Games. He reveals that Ian used this position to pay a woman named Ren. Ren was the very e-girl Ian claimed was his girlfriend back in 2019.
While he worked for me as an editor, he lied to my face and said that he needed help editing all of these articles that we were bringing in. So he hired someone called Ren, allegedly. Well, it turns out from what I've gathered, this Ren individual was an e-girl and trying to buy an iPhone or something like that. He was sending money to an e-girl who had no idea that she even worked for this website, okay? When I confronted him over it, he had a mental breakdown, a bawling breakdown on Skype for stealing not my money, but your money. The people had backed the project.
Jeremy also discussed Ian's backstory from Internet Blood Sports all the way back to Gamergate.
Eventually, when he realized there was more money on Pro Gamer's side, he made his metamorphoses to this sort of right-wing anti-cancel culture guy. But he has no idea what cancel culture is actually like. He sits over in Malaysia tweeting from his parents' basement, literally. Well, in my mind anyway.
While Ian was still successful, he had little to no allies as both sides detested him. Even those unaware of his past grew upset over his constant theft of videos and information. It became such an issue that one site blacklisted the entire country of Malaysia to stop him. That's it, I'm IP blocking Malaysia. Sorry Malaysians who aren't Ian, he left me no choice. He then tried to make good with Redux, but it was too late, with the public at large sick of his behavior. The consequence was felt a few days later with a massive thread by user Censored Man. It elaborates on his past at length with a plethora of receipts. The author points out that he was a Malaysian obsessed with the West with no stake in the outcome. Ian gave up on gaming journalism after he lost all credibility due to being caught red-handed in the Andy Worski situation. He then turned to political journalism and decided to focus on Western issues that don't concern him. He did this due to it being the easiest way to build an audience and it being very profitable. Ian resides in Malaysia and posts divisive content about Western nations. Not because he cares, literally none of it matters to him, but because it's profitable. The thread received over 37,000 likes and 10 million views. It was successful in contextualizing his convoluted history while demonstrating willful malice. It also made the fact he wasn't an American citizen common knowledge, which he'd kept hidden for many years. This proved to have even more serious consequences as his own country took notice. You see, Malaysia is a conservative Muslim nation. They've never had diplomatic ties with Israel and don't recognize it as a country. In fact, the Malaysian government has jailed people for merely suggesting opening up diplomatic ties with Israel. That was a serious issue for Ian, who was vocally pro-Israel. Palestinians should stop building homes illegally on land they don't own. This caused an uproar in Malay social media who demanded punishment. The following article was written by the outlet New Straits Times. Meanwhile, Malaysian netizens have called for Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil to take action against Chong for his actions, particularly on his commentary on Palestinian-Israeli issues. However, counterterrorism and extremism expert Manira Mustafa suggested that legal obstacles may hinder any actions against Chong. For the record, Malaysians can be charged for sedition under the Seditions Act for expressing views that could potentially sow discord among communities in the country. It's no coincidence Ian tweeted this out the same day. I actually love my country. The food is great, it's peaceful, and it's a strong conservative nation. The article spread across Twitter like wildfire as Ian Miles Chong started trending. Many took it as confirmation he was going to be executed, with a near universal celebration. They called for his arrest and for him to face capital punishment. It might be all over for Ian Miles Chong. One of the biggest media sites in Malaysia is now publishing calls to charge him with sedition. I pray Elon Musk will chopper him out. I pray Elon Musk will chopper him out of Kuala Lumpur before it's too late. Twitter was flooded with memes about his fate as rumors began to circulate. They suggested different methods and fake announcements of his death. These tweets garnered upwards of 80,000 likes. This was so widespread that it was covered in Time magazine. In the end, though, an actual confirmation never arrived as Ian returned to dispel the rumors. In this return, he compared himself to Mark Twain before blaming it on far-left transgender activists. It seems he was once again able to talk himself out of trouble. His explanation can be found in a follow-up by New Straits Times. Ian Miles Chong has clarified that he does not advocate for Israel, despite claims circulating on social media. Chong said that he has consistently voiced support for peace between both groups and backs Palestine's right to exist on various platforms. I was expressing my horror at the events that unfolded on October 7, 2023, along with the rest of the world when footage was live streamed on the internet. His claim is demonstrably untrue, with many of the resurfaced tweets dating back before 2023. But for now, it seems that he was able to talk his way out of it. In a weird way, I kind of respect Ian Miles Chong for his grift. He has been so shameless and over the top with his changes in viewpoint that it's almost comical. And in conclusion, I just can't wait to see what his political opinions will be in 5 years from now.
So at this point, I think we can all agree that out of the many prominent figures who went all in on Trump, the one who debased himself the most was former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. The man was always a bit of a freak, but since taking on his role as Trump's legal counsel and hype man, he has seen his life, his public image, and his personal finances turn to absolute shit before our very eyes. At 80 years old, the man formerly known as America's mayor is bankrupt and owes money to dozens of people who successfully sued him. He's facing civil and criminal charges in multiple cases related to the 2020 election. And he's been caught on camera looking like an absolute schmuck, whether it's holding a press conference at a landscaping company because he got it mixed up with the Four Seasons Hotel, leaking black goo out of his skull, or appearing to try and have sex with Borat's daughter. Any one of these incidents would be so mortifying to the average person that they would crawl into a hole to live out the rest of their days, but not Rudy.
No, he embraces it. He uses it as energy. As we've discussed this week, one of Rudy's latest achievements in embarrassment came when, after weeks of successfully avoiding getting served with yet another indictment and publicly gloating about it, he was successfully served by the Arizona Attorney General's office at his own 80th birthday. Reportedly right after everyone sang happy birthday to him.
Make a wish.
They waited, they're like, all right, this is too pathetic. We have to wait until at least the song's over.
I'm gonna wait till he makes a wish because he's probably gonna wish that he never gets served. And then I'm gonna serve him and it's gonna be so cool. And me and all the other process servers are gonna have a real hoot about it at the process servers bar that we all go to.
Yeah. So it was once again the kind of thing that most people would consider to be the most deeply embarrassing moment of their lives. But for Rudy, it was just a Friday. And by Tuesday, he was back at it again, adding further disgrace to his legacy. Many of Rudy's most embarrassing moments have felt like something straight out of a movie, and in the case of Borat 2, it literally was. But this next debacle is specifically straight out of the movie The Naked Gun. So at one point, the character Frank Drebin is in court and is mic'd up so he can give testimony. Then he goes to take a piss with the microphone still on for the whole courtroom to hear.
It's one of the best bits in the movie.
On Tuesday, Rudy Giuliani appeared remotely via Zoom to his arraignment in Arizona court. And, well, just here you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. I'm sorry that that wasn't clear. Can you go
No problem. Appreciate it.
Great. Number 66 on today's calendar. 66 is CR 2024.
Is that me?
Yes, it's you, Mr. Giuliani. I'm just calling the case here, 2024 006.
Okay, yeah, that sure sounds like piss. And very specifically, old man piss.
Dribbling.
It's a weak stream, possibly due to an enlarged prostate.
Could be.
This, of course, seems almost too good to be true. And it seems like something that could have very easily been edited into the video. But here's the Daily Beast. For those inside the courtroom, the question of whether Giuliani was pulling a Frank Drebin left many of them holding back the urge to laugh. We were all trying to hold our composure in the courtroom while trying to figure out what it was. Reporter Cameron Arkand noted. Now, that tweet from that reporter appears to have been deleted. So, who knows? Maybe it was out of respect. Maybe it was out of fear. Maybe he was correcting a mistake.
I would have thought that Rudy would have done this on purpose to keep up the, really drive home that he is just a doddering old fool. He can't even appear at his arraignment correctly.
The Uncle Junior defense?
Yeah, like I'm clearly too old and stupid to have committed any crime knowingly.
That would make sense if it was at all consistent, because he is still out there pretending to have his shit together.
Yeah, well...
so, yeah, I mean, it's not like this would be especially unbelievable, though. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy accidentally pissed with his mic on during a Twitter Spaces talk, like, 3 months ago. And Rudy previously let out a loud fart during a hearing where he disputed the 2020 election results.
The answer. Point of order. The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness, just like you.
And that's 100% real. You see the woman next to him go like, damn, Rudy? Damn.
Yeah, well, like, when you get that old, they just kind of fall out.
Yeah.
The farts slip out, the pee's a little harder.
Yeah, the pee comes out a lot slower, and the gas comes out a lot faster.
Yeah, no one's going to question whether or not he was frying chicken off screen. It was not that.
No.
So we choose to believe that Rudy Giuliani did, in fact, take a piss on mic during a court appearance, because it is absolutely in line with every other thing that we know about him. And at this rate, since his gaffes appear to be accelerating with age, we look forward to Rudy's next gaffe, which is due any moment now.
Yeah, possibly while we're filming, he does another one.
Yeah, if this one didn't stick, he's like, oh, everyone thought I was goofing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do something even more senile.
He's going to have to shit his pants.
Yeah, well, he might have actually done that when he let the other one loose.
That's true.
Yeah, we don't know. But speaking of people who have hitched their wagon to the Trump train and will now forever be associated with it, Kid Rock has seemingly benefited from his Trump connection much more than Rudy Giuliani has, earning himself a fan base that, at this point, probably cares a lot less about his actual music than the fact that he's one of the few famous musicians that has gone full-on MAGA. This week, Rolling Stone published a long interview between writer David Peisner and Kid Rock, real name Bob Ritchie, and it is a lot.
It's long. It's a lot in that sense, but it's also a lot just in terms of the portrait you get of this man.
Yes.
The intimate look at his life, where it's in the category of stories we've all seen many times, where it's like, wow, he's really got it all. And then you take a closer look and you're like, wow, actually this person seems fucking miserable.
Seems very depressed when you feel back
to be
just a couple layers.
In a prison of their own design in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so the whole thing is worth a read, and links are always down below in the description. But let's just go over some excerpts, because they're going to give you a great idea of the real Kid Rock.
Yeah, some real just insight. So first, here's a description of just Kid Rock's house, which I guess is just in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Modeled to look like the White House, the extravagant, airy mansion is decorated with taxidermied hunting trophies and neon beer signs. The bathroom hand towels are monogrammed with an R, and a mirror near the sink has a naked woman in a Liberty headband painted on it in pink. Images of Kid Rock's platinum records adorn the garage doors. Richie's entire sprawling 214-acre compound, which includes a saloon, a studio, and a cavernous hangar with a pickleball court, a basketball hoop, and the original General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard in it, feels like what a 13-year-old boy might sketch if you asked him to design his dream home.
I gotta say, at least he lives up to the persona that he's built for himself.
Yeah, this is...
Because he wasn't white trash. He was born to a very...
They go over that a lot in this article. His dad literally owned a dealership.
Yeah,
he's the original, my dad owns a dealership. He was from... I mean, and we know people like from Detroit, and it's like the city of Detroit and the suburbs of Detroit.
Very different.
Very different scenes.
Yes, and it's just funny that he built this persona as like a southern rock god, despite being somewhat wealthy from Michigan, and has decided, even in his private life, to fully live it. So, I mean,
yeah,
you know.
At one point in the interview, he puts on a Bud Light hat.
Yep.
And the interviewer is just like, what's that about? And he's like, oh, fuck. Don't tell anyone.
I feel
did
like
this on accident.
Because he's come out so in support of Budweiser in recent months. Since I pretty much, it was like New Year's or something like that, he was on something where he's like, everyone stand down.
Yeah.
We've done enough. And now he's wearing the hat.
Ceasefire now.
And this isn't like the first, there's been little hints that maybe he's like digging a little deeper. Like there has to be either he got like a phone call from someone at Anheuser-Busch, or like a surreptitious endorsement deal or something.
I think he's the real deal. So he actually does care that much. You know, he's not going to let one little misunderstanding get in the way of a lifelong love affair with Anheuser-Busch and its delicious products.
The funniest part of this would be like if he really gave it the college try to get into like Coors Light or Miller and was just like, I can't do it. I don't care who endorses it.
I mean, I think he did because in this house, he's serving Miller Lights.
Oh. Uh-oh. Well, so the bulk of the article is a profile of Kid Rock's origins in the suburbs of Detroit, his political shift over the years, and commentary from various people who have known him throughout his career. But it really, really goes off the rails towards the end. By this time, I've long since quit drinking, but Richie has exchanged his white wine for Jim Beam and Diet Coke. He proceeds to drain at least 3 or 4 of them in pretty quick succession. He's sitting in a dark leather chair, shouting at me about something or other, when he reaches behind the seat, pulls out a black handgun, and waves it around to make some sort of point. And I got a fucking goddamn gun right here if I need it, he shouts. I got them everywhere. Something you definitely want to see and hear from an individual who's not only been just drinking throughout the night, but then is pounding fucking Jim Beam.
Yeah. It continues. This was the tenor of the next hour or so. We start talking about American history, and he rightfully brings up slavery and the genocide of Native Americans as stains on that history. I ask him if he worries that in the modern day, he might be on the wrong side of history. No, it was the Republicans that freed the fucking slaves. Yes, but the Republicans were the progressive party back then. I know where you're going with this, and I'll tell you why I don't, Richie says, because Trick, the hardest hitting N-word in Detroit, was like, dog, you had that shit right. We need Trump. I'll call him right fucking now. He dials his phone, but Christian Mathis, the pioneering underground Detroit rapper who goes by Trick, doesn't pick up. Richie turns back to me. I'm telling you, these dogs are calling me like, yo, N-word, you had that one right. And that's what the hard R.
Yeah, and that is, you know,
I can say it.
He gave me the pass. So yikes. And yeah, it reads as though he said that with a hard R. Not that the alternative would be much better, but there you go. At this point, it does seem like in the interview, Kid Rock is pretty wasted. At one point in the evening, the MAGA veil falls for a moment, and he seems to lament becoming such a reviled figure among so many music fans. No one's ever going to say, fuck Prince, he tells me. As soon as he goes, and here Richie breaks into song, I never meant to cause you any sorrow. You're like, ah. Yeah, but Prince wasn't out talking shit about everyone spouting political opinions. I don't care. Purple Rain is probably the greatest Prince song ever written. Prince is known for Purple Rain. I'm known for shooting up Bud Light cans. But do you want that? You don't want that to be on your epitaph. I don't care. Yeah, but you do. No, I don't. You don't understand. I really don't give a fuck. As he's probably crying, at least on the inside.
What have I done?
No.
Is this my legacy? I don't care.
And he is of the somewhat of the correct age to where he was probably extremely heavily inspired by Prince.
Yeah, I mean, they talked to like so many people who knew him like back in the day, and they're like, yeah, like he was into like all these different genres of music, and like that's part of like, I mean, regardless of the quality you perceive in his like that first album of his that got big, like there are a ton of musical influences there that like were crossing over in ways that like hadn't really been seen in the mainstream yet. So yeah, I mean, it does sound like he really does admire Prince, and it does feel some sadness that that'll never be him.
Yeah, well.
But it's not just that. I mean, Prince was also, I would say, thousands of times more talented.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like, even at his level of fame, going a different direction, could have had a legacy that he probably would have been at least a little more proud of, because it doesn't sound, based on this interview, it doesn't sound like he's proud of his legacy, despite whatever he's currently saying or going along with.
Like, so a lot of the article like is sort of like tracing his like political path. And it's just like, yeah, he's always been like, yeah, I'm a Republican, but like he's like over the years many times he's just like, yeah, I'm not down with like the anti-gay stuff and like anti-abortion stuff. Like he seems to be like pretty moderate up to a point. And then Donald Trump comes along and he just leans hard into like all this culture war shit.
Yeah, it's, to me, it feels like he loves America, but he loves a certain type of America that he's made up in his mind that is literally monster trucks and kicking other countries' asses.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure 9/11 had some effect on it, because he probably was like, fuck yeah, and we're gonna go kick their ass. And like, and he just seems like that style of very patriotic person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But so the end of the interview is a long, drawn-out argument between Kid Rock and the interviewer over whether the interviewer can leave.
Oh, okay.
So Kid Rock keeps insisting that he spend the night, and he's refusing to drive him out to his car, which is like a half mile out in the middle of nowhere because his compound's massive. You won't make it, Richie snarls. Just watch this one YouTube video and then I'll take you up there. After some fidgeting with the remote, he loads a video of himself performing Born Free at a 2011 charity event onto the flat screen in the lounge. The audience at the show includes Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush. Don't you miss being that guy? I ask him. No, I can do that any day of the week. Not anymore. Because you couldn't be in a room with, I don't give a frog's fat fuck. Look around. I got a butler named Uncle Tom. Do I look like I give a fuck? What? He does.
That's crazy. It is wild that he like has this and he's like, you know, that is to him deep down in the drunk mode, maybe the pinnacle of his life.
Oh, maybe it was 100%. You're playing to 4 presidents?
Yeah, and then it's all downhill from there because you latch yourself on to essentially a criminal. And
he's trading playing for 4 presidents to being best buds with 1 president. At one point in the interview, he's like, watch this. He calls Trump, but Trump doesn't pick up.
Oh yeah, just like trick. No one's answering his calls.
Because I'm sure when Kid Rock's calling, you're just like, fuck, do I have time for this shit? How many Diet Cokes and whiskeys has he had so far?
Yeah, I feel like he's getting these little flashes of like self-awareness or whatever. Because he has these moments where he's like, yeah, like, I don't like that they're banning abortions. I don't like the anti-gay stuff. Like, he seems to have some, it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
But he's committed to a very specific bit.
Well, this interviewer for Rolling Stone, you should understand that when another man asks you to watch a YouTube video, that is him sharing his, he's being friends with you. He's sharing a part of his culture with you. When the video ends, I stand up to go, but he wants to watch another one. And then another one after that. This goes on for more than half an hour. Me telling him I need to leave, him insisting on watching just one more video. All while goading me into arguments about Gaza, Trump, whatever. He pulls an acoustic guitar off the wall and plays along with shaky fan footage of himself performing Maggie May. I start to wonder if I'll ever get home. Finally, I pick up my backpack. Okay, I'm out. Richie shakes his head. You just stay over. I can't. I really have to go. All right. This is the last one we'll watch. This is every drunk high party I went to in my 20s.
One more. No.
We don't want the night to end. When the night ends, that's when reality slips in.
I can't be alone with my thoughts.
Yeah, it's, woo. This one is the final. That's what my dad used to say, the final. I've got to go. You can't get anywhere without me. I've got legs. I can make it up the hill. I'm leaving. I start walking towards the door. Sit down. No. One more and that's it. You said that 10 fucking minutes ago. Final. You haven't even asked me about my jewelry. No, but you see, he let him. Look, he showed him YouTube videos, which is a sign of trust and camaraderie among men, specifically a white man like Kid Rock. I'm sure he showed off one of our videos where we're making fun of him. And then he like lets him in a little bit and he goes, you know,
we're friends now.
The final. That's what my dad used to say to me.
Yeah.
He's like letting him into a part of his life. He's like, look, I'm damaged. I got daddy issues.
Yeah.
Just, you know, let me do what my dad did and say final. And then you stay and we all have a good time.
You know what he's acting like?
Yeah.
He's acting like a drug dealer. When you go to their house and you're like, okay, so how much? All right. No, sit down. Well, come on, we'll just watch a little bit of this.
You know, thank goodness that they legalized weed because I did have to live through those years.
That's like the scene in SLC Punk when they go to buy weed from Till Schweiger, and they're just stuck at his fucking house for hours while he's like having a mental breakdown about his parents dying in a plane crash.
But you got to be nice because they give you a little bit extra. Yeah.
So yeah, the arguments, he just won't let him leave. No. It just keeps on going. Kid Rock,
it's sad, honestly,
keeps pouring himself more drinks. I wish he had kept a tally, but I'm sure it sounds like it was a lot. And starts up random arguments out of nowhere, exactly like probably how your MAGA uncle does at Thanksgiving. It's just things seem to be okay, and then here it comes. And at one point, Kid Rock squares up like he's ready to fight before calming down and having yet another drink. Eventually, after what sounds like hours of arguing about politics, arguing about the interviewer leaving, and having more drinks, Kid Rock finally drives him to his car on an ATV, which had to be terrifying.
Yeah, also very dangerous.
Yeah.
Even though it's
I'm good.
His property, probably wide open, obviously no other traffic, but I would still be like,
yeah.
You know what? Why don't I drive it?
Can I at least get a helmet, maybe?
Please.
Pussy. So yeah, they finally get to the car and the interview ends with Kid Rock saying, just write the most horrific article about me. Do it. It helps me. And yeah, it seems like he did at least like partially get what he asked for, though the vibe is less like Kid Rock is a monster.
You should be scared of Kid Rock.
And it's more Kid Rock is pathetic and past his professional prime and desperately clinging on to relevance and seemingly very lonely. Sort of like that classic Onion article, Marilyn Manson now going door to door trying to shock people. He has chosen like a character
now
that he has to be.
Has to go door to door to let them know that he's in the neighborhood. This is the court's making me do this.
Yeah, so you may have seen a little dot pop up on your local sex offender map.
I thought to be fair, so there's no legal issues. I think he got exonerated or something.
Yeah, he's
legally cleared.
He hasn't formally been charged with anything, but yeah, not a good person.
So yeah, it really, he probably thought that was gonna help his persona, but it really makes him seem weak and sad, honestly. He wants people to be scared of him. People they just kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But it is kind of hard to feel bad for someone with that much ostentatious wealth and with, I guess some shred of influence on a certain type of person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel bad for him, but it's very depressing. This is a very dark path to go down with fame, and there's really, he cannot turn back.
Yeah, no.
And I think that's what's fucking with him.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm forever going to be the Trump
guy. The Bud Light guy.
Yeah, the guy that just shot a bunch of Bud Lights with an MP5 and broke his hand in the process.
Whew, sorry, Kid Rock, but let's move on. I mean, last week's top story was, of course, the congressional catfight between the youngish female stars of both parties, during which Marjorie Taylor Greene insulted Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes, and Crockett eventually fired back with the now iconic insult describing Marjorie Taylor Greene as a bleach, blonde, bad-built butch body.
There's been so many remixes of that.
Yeah, it's the Summer Jam.
Yeah.
Now, we noted at the time that while this level of conflict is pretty unusual in the U.S. Congress, other countries have seen actual violence break out in their legislative chambers. And in the past week, we've got multiple examples of this. Over in Taiwan, their parliament erupted in chaos over some legislative reforms, with lawmakers tackling each other, and at one point, someone grabbing the actual bill and running away with it.
I love that.
Yeah, I mentioned it last week because I saw the video and I was like, I just had scrolled by it and I was like, huh,
He literally runs up and just grabs a stack of papers and tries to run out. That's one way to stop legislation you don't want.
Yeah, and over in Romania, a parliament meeting got so heated that 2 lawmakers got in a fight, during which one of them tried to bite the other's face. Damn. Woo. Meanwhile...
Too much tweaka.
Yeah, well, that'll do it.
Yeah,
it turns you into a monster.
Makes you into a vampire.
Meanwhile, a few foreign heads of state decided to also help put our shit into perspective, with Argentina's Javier Milei declaring, "I'm the king and I will destroy you," at a rock concert / book release party.
This is so weird. He got on the mic, he was singing, he's all rocking leather. Meanwhile, doesn't seem like he's too popular in the country where he just won an election.
I sold our country out to Elon Musk! Why is nobody clapping? So India's Narendra Modi publicly declared his belief that he was literally sent by God. So there's also that too.
Not sure which God though. How does that work?
I don't know.
He's got like several of those, I think. But yeah, he's just like, I'm like not 100% certain that I was actually birthed. Like I may have.
I would remember that.
I may have just been sent by God. Whichever God you like.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Think of a God. Think of your favorite God. That's the one that sent me.
I know him. I know him personally. I'm gonna give him a call. You'll see.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't answer right now.
But you see on the phone, it says
it's there. Let me try Trick. Actually, he's busy right now too.
But if he picked up, he would have said that I totally had the N-word pass.
Yeah, and so does Modi.
And so does Narendra
Say it.
Modi.
Do it.
The N-word is Narendra. Anyways, that's the news half of the show. And now it's time for...
Wait, hold on. Because we would have an ad right here, but we don't.
But I don't. And these pockets are...
They're so dry.
They're dry.
Please click the join button. Become a member.
If you would be so kind.
It's $5 a month. You watch hours of our show, I'm assuming, every month. I think it's a good deal. We haven't raised prices like all those other streaming services.
Or if you want to just toss some change one time, we got the
hit the thank button.
Or if you're just you want to help with engagement,
click the like button.
The like button is your friend.
Thank you so much. I saw, we had earlier like 15,000 likes.
Thank you.
Let's go for 16,000.
To the brave 15,000.
We love you. Now we can get into the headlines, the craziest, weirdest, wildest headlines from around the world this week, starting with...
Man is fined after trying to body slam killer whale.
What, was this some rogue billionaire?
No, just a rogue New Zealander.
I'll fucking show you, coming after my yacht.
We should not be picking this fight.
No, they'll win every time.
Also, I'm not even that into wrestling. Haven't been since a child, but this wasn't a body slam. This was a splash, like you would do coming off the top rope. A body slam is when you pick someone up and slam them on the ground. What this man did was jump off of a boat onto some orcas that were nearby. There were probably, what a magical moment. Some orcas swim up to your boat in the sea and they don't look mad. They're just like, hey, what's up? We're orcas. And you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna remember this moment forever. But this fucking asshole's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna jump on it. Sort of like your friend that jumped on the...
and it was dead. It was a rotting carcass and he went straight through it.
Sort of like your friend that jumped on the dead manatee.
We all have a friend who jumped on the dead manatee.
Yeah, apparently it's an urban legend.
That is so crazy because I found that out, like, first of all, there was no fucking internet back then, but it spread the old-fashioned way, like, to bring up Marilyn Manson again, taking his rib out.
Yeah.
But I don't know where the fuck this came from. And then unless it's all came from my guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it could have.
It's a hell of a story.
It is.
But yeah, this guy jumped in the water. He didn't jump directly on the orca, but he was harassing it. He was touching it.
Yeah.
And you can't fucking do that. Especially, like, of all places to try this, like, New Zealand has some of, like, the strictest, like, wildlife laws in the world.
You're lucky you got away with just a fine. It could have...
Yeah, no, like...
You could have been the first person to die by killer whale in the ocean.
They've never killed anyone on purpose, but, like...
outside of captivity.
Do you want to... Yeah.
They definitely did it on purpose in captivity.
They have murdered people here on the mainland. But yeah, do you really want to be the first one? Do you really want to test them? They've been showing us, they've been loud and clear about what they are capable of while not leaving any bodies in their wake. And you're going and doing this shit?
Yeah.
If they come for us extra hard this summer, it is this man's fault. Because those orcas, they're going to spread the news like, hey, I just went to go say hi, and these fucking humans.
Could you imagine?
Can you believe it?
Could you imagine this guy gets killed and the orcas get a taste for human blood?
It's over.
Yeah, we're delicious.
I mean,
they're going to be coming on shore for us.
It honestly could be something like that because, like, it's similar with, like, elephants.
Yeah.
Elephants, as soon as an elephant kills a human being, like they pretty much have to be like euthanized. Because once they discover that they are capable of it, they will never take shit from anyone again.
Yeah.
You can't keep them in captivity, and if they're in the wild, if they ever encounter a human, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this, bop. Wow, that was easy. Sick. I love doing that.
It's like those
Do we
bison.
want that to happen with orcas?
Every summer, those bison, they get lucky with one person, they grab them by their pants and fling them through the air.
Yeah.
They love doing it.
At least one.
Yeah.
I feel like in Yellowstone every summer, it's like once a week, some dipshit like walks right up to one with their phone.
Hey, it's a fluffy cow!
Cool, it's just like in the cowboy movies.
Next headline, Central Florida priest bites woman after denying her communion, police say.
I mean, after reading this, I'm with the priest here. Because it sounds like this lady, she showed up to mass once and like, she didn't even know like the right hand motions to do. And he's like, all right, so I'm not giving you communion because clearly you haven't been confirmed or whatever into the faith. But if you go to confession, you can come back, I'll give you communion. And then she comes to the next mass like an hour later and is still trying to pull that shit. And she like reaches out to grab it when he refuses it. And to him, this is the body of Christ.
He has to protect
and it must
Christ.
be protected.
Yeah.
And if that means biting a woman, so be it.
Yeah.
He did what he had to do. Stop fucking with this man's Eucharist. It's not funny.
What was her deal?
Also, if you want to play with that.
What the fuck is her deal?
I don't know. She's a weird person. If you want to play with that shit, though, you can just order it online.
Yeah.
Get a big tube of it.
I got
dip
holy
it in
water.
hummus.
I got holy water in my bedside table.
Yeah. It's not blessed, so it's fine.
No, I think mine was. I got it in Italy.
Oh, the water? Yeah, they say that. I mean,
I got it at a church, in Italy.
Yeah.
So it's real holy water.
Yeah, but did you put it on yourself and did it start burning?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then it's real.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I put it around the door so when I walk in, it's a cleanse. It cleanses me from the evils that I've collected all day.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the best use for it.
I don't do any of this. I really have it, but I'm not like putting it on me or anything.
Oh, cool. Holy water.
Yeah.
Grandma groped Goofy. Character allegedly assaulted by elderly woman at Walt Disney World.
Stop it.
People, I mean, this has been an ongoing problem at the Disney parks for a while. It's usually younger women getting handsy. There's multiple videos of this where the performer has to stop and immediately, like, just like, you're out of here.
Yeah. Gaston.
Yeah, Gaston's the biggest, and like I think they might have like changed Gaston's like schedule or something, or to change his appearances, how they work, because it was like such a problem. Like every fucking millennial woman would grope Gaston, but this lady was like 65, and she,
that's
her
young, baby.
And her tastes are a little different than you millennial girls.
Goofy.
Like we didn't have Gaston when I was a little girl. What we had was Goofy.
She knows a big floppy cock when she sees one.
And
Gaston's penis is very small.
They took a whole family photo, like 3 generations in one picture, and Grandma just like grabbed a piece of Goofy ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, she had to go.
Well, they can't arrest her because she'll just fucking poop herself, just like Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah. Oh.
What do you want me to do?
I guess I'll get into your cop car with my pants full of shit. Guess you're probably gonna have to clean that up later.
You know, thinking back on it, Kid Rock is like our, well, I guess he's still alive, but our generation's Ted Nugent. If only there was a draft so Kid Rock could shit himself in order to avoid.
I would say Ted Nugent is a far worse human being than Kid Rock.
Yeah.
However, far more talented musically, like genuinely, like kind of a virtuoso on the guitar, but also like literally an evil man and like a pedophile and a rapist.
Yeah, very, very bad guy. Family stricken with rare brain worms after eating undercooked bear.
Yeah, folks, when you're cooking bear, you gotta make sure the bear is done.
Brain worms, they're real and they're affecting everyone.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's like every single person at this. It's like someone. I guess they killed the bear. So I mean, if you're hunting,
putting it to use.
Yeah, most people that kill a bear don't eat fucking any of it. They're just doing it for the furs, which is kind of fucked up. I hear the meat's not that good. But
at least you're using it.
Yeah, they were cooking it in a certain way. I think they were making like shawarma out of it. And all of them, everyone there, like within days, had just like a litany of symptoms. And they're just like, oh, it must have been something in that bear. And like, yeah, they get tested and there's like fucking like worms swimming around in their brain.
How do you fix that?
Just anti-parasitic medicine. Probably the like ivermectin.
Yeah. Sick. I think that would be a great evolution in our country's history, is that everyone who took ivermectin to cure COVID are the exact type of people who are actually going to get brain worms.
Yeah.
We thought they had brain worms.
Just let them
theoretically.
Take it. Let them just take the ivermectin.
Now they need it. Yeah. Well, or the brain worms are now used to it because they've been having it for so long for no reason that they've built up an immunity and they can only infect the minds of ultra-conservatives.
Yeah, drug-resistant brain worms.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Postal worker caught racing Mustang in USPS van, hitting 105 miles per hour in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. I wouldn't have guessed that a postal van can even go that fast. This is kind of impressive. Yeah. Aside from being extremely dangerous and pointless, the fact that this postal, and in the past when postal workers went postal, that meant people were dead. People were shot up. In this case, the postal worker saw a Mustang driving really fast and was like, you know what?
Fuck it.
Let's go. I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
I think this is pretty funny. It was obviously very dangerous.
It was a young woman too. You don't expect someone driving this recklessly to be anything other than
the Mustang offended her honor.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you ever feel like racing a Mustang, don't.
Yeah.
Because you will be an accessory to murder. Because that Mustang is going to lose control. And take a bunch of people out.
Well, everyone that drives one, they're not used to a rear-wheel drive V8 car. So usually, thankfully, once they're on the straightaway, it's not a big deal. When you really want to steer clear of Mustangs is when they're pulling out of parking lots.
Yeah, but that's when they gun it every time.
Right. But they gun it while the fucking front wheels are turned. And just immediately, like the physics does the rest.
Yep.
You're fucked. From the second you hit the gas, you're fucked. And it's always a delight to see. It's why Mustangs have been banned from like every Cars and Coffee club in the country.
You guys got to stop.
Yeah.
They're not going to let us come to this Denny's anymore.
Ambulance collides with moose while responding to another moose collision.
We need an ambulance for the broken down ambulance for the moose incident.
Can you guess which country this was?
Canada?
That's right. Yeah.
Those moose are big?
No, they're terrifying. I've never seen one in real life. At least, I might have seen one in like a zoo. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, even in videos, like most animals, you see videos of them and it's hard to like really get a sense of like the scale. But like every video I've seen of a moose, I'm like, this is a like mythical creature. Like humans killed off every like crazy large animal before we had a chance to see them, but somehow moose are still out there standing like 15 feet tall.
Yeah. It's because they own that forest.
Yeah.
Get out.
And they're all lanky and shit, and like they regularly fucking kill people.
Yeah. They're fucking huge.
Because they know they can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like there was a moose incident on the highway up in northern Ontario, and the ambulance coming to treat the people of that accident. I don't know if it was the same moose or another moose, but they also hit a moose. It's even scarier if it's the same moose. Moose can survive 2 car accidents.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Canada problem.
Canada.
You wouldn't understand. It's a Canada thing.
Pittsburgh police candidates allowed to retake their psychological evaluations after dozens failed.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It is interesting, like, among the many, many problems with American policing that will take generations to solve, if ever, is the fact that it's very self-selecting. Everyone, like the people who should be cops are people who would never once consider it because of the connotations and the culture around it. People who should be enforcing the law are moral, upstanding people who have much better opportunities. Also intelligent, so they have much better opportunities. So the people who actually want to be cops, that's pretty much all they've got.
They are gravitating towards power.
Like, so you tell me I get to have a gun and I can kill anyone without any repercussions? So yeah, it sounds like over in Pittsburgh, they just had like a dozen Seth Rogens in Observe and Report like show up. And like after the first one, they're like, okay, well that guy's a fucking psycho. Next, like,
all these people are crazy.
Okay. And then the department's like, all right, where's our new squad of officers? And like, no, they're all fucking insane. They all have this like crazy fucked up idea that they're like
in a war zone.
Yeah. We can't let these people be cops. I'm like, okay, well,
just remove that part.
Can we just like make the test a little easier? Let them retake it again. Maybe we'll coach them through it this time.
Yeah. Have them identify a clock.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, you can sleep soundly knowing that the best and brightest are out there serving and protecting.
Or something.
Up in smoke. Workers removed dozens of apparent marijuana plants from Wisconsin Capitol Tulip Garden.
This feels like something out of like the 60s or 70s.
I think it's funny. You just go spread some seeds around.
Yeah.
It'll grow. It's a literal weed.
Yeah. It won't be very useful.
No, but it'll grow and look
weed
like
that's just grown from scattered seeds. Like you're gonna have to grind up that entire plant to get like enough THC to get high.
The flower looks like it. Not the flower, but the
leaves.
Yeah.
It does look cooler. All of the weed you smoke, it's just a like bunch of fucking nuggets. Where's the cool leaves? I was told there would be cool leaves.
I thought you just chopped up one of those big cool leaves and rolled it up.
I mean, I think back in the day they did. They had pretty slim pickings back then. They were smoking just entire joints like cigarettes and getting a mild high.
One of our joints would kill those hippies from
Literally, that's why I stopped smoking weed for so many years.
I'm having a bad trip, man.
Yeah, just taking like the tiniest, like I'd get past a joint and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna go. And even then, like I'd be high for like hours. I'm like, this is fucking.
Let me out of here.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's cost effective. You just need a little bit.
But even then, like I'm saying, like even taking the tiniest puff, it's too much.
Yeah.
That's why I got into edibles. I can take like.
Yeah, they're perfectly measured.
I'm literally taking like medicinal doses of weed that are like.
Give me my 5 milligrams so I can go to sleep.
Literally, like 5 mils at the end of the day is good enough for me. Your average weed smoker wouldn't even be able to fucking feel that.
Yep.
Fuck the LAPD. Shirt makers' entire shop sold out after cops threatened him.
Yeah, they were trying to like say that that LAPD is trademarked and that they're gonna come after him for using that. No,
it's a cool logo. I would have guessed that the LA Lakers would have gone after him because the logo is like very clearly like the fucking Lakers logo. But yeah, the guy posted about it online and just like everyone's like, oh hey, cool shirt. I'm gonna go buy some of that. So great job, LAPD. Doing the classic Streisand effect.
It's like, and the same thing is like the Dodgers probably aren't going to go after whoever it is that's making the LA cab.
Yeah.
Those are cool. I see those all over the place.
I mean, that's the Dodgers logo in particular. Like every clothing store in the city has like essentially trademark infringed Dodger merch. Like every brewery has like the Dodgers, except they just change the word to whatever the brewery is.
Yep.
Maybe add like change the baseball out for something else.
Smartly so far, the Dodgers have been like, this is going to be way more of a headache if we cause a fucking fuss.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Plus, we got that Fanatics running our merch, and
we got $35 parking, and
we got this Fanatics merch that costs 10 cents to make. We're earning insane profits on all of it. Who cares?
Yeah. It dissolves in the washer and dryer within.
They don't make the money off the parking. That is the
McCourt Foundation.
The McCourt family.
Yeah.
Former owners of the team.
Yeah.
And final headline, some somber news. Kabosu, side-eyeing Shiba Inu who inspired the Doge meme, dies at 18.
Is this good for the coin? Is this good for the coin?
It is sad that
the legacy.
Kabosu,
speaking of legacies.
Yeah, the legacy is now super tied to that shitty cryptocurrency. Kabosu, who was a girl, I'm just learning this. But the owner of Kabosu never, ever never made a fucking cent off of her dog. Had I'm assuming just numerous opportunities to do so in the same way that like fucking Grumpy Cat and all those early internet animals did, and she refused. And so I'm sure she probably didn't really like the Dogecoin thing
I would assume
at
not.
all either.
Wait, this is worth $1 trillion?
Yeah, but yeah, I've been following the Twitter account for this dog for years. It's been in bad shape for a while. I'm pretty sure it was blind and deaf and crippled. Owner was just sort of carrying it around.
Are there any more influencer animals out there? Was it kind of just that you had to be on the ground floor kind of thing?
Yeah, I think at this point, I follow a lot of specific dogs on Instagram, but none of them are like at that level. Like they're all famous in their own right, but only among people who would follow that kind of content. Whereas in the past, like those online animals, everyone knew Grumpy Cat.
Like Lil Bub's dead too, right?
Yeah, that was early on.
Well, so this might be one of the last of that era.
Yeah. Now they're all on the other side of the Rainbow Bridge doing memes together.
I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you at the Mashable house, which I'm sure I'm sure they extended the offer, but the owner probably said no, too far.
Yeah.
Oh well. Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yeah, real sad. Maybe justice will have its due, and there'll be a statue in Japan soon.
Yeah, they love putting up dog statues.
Yeah, because they're good boys or girls. That's right. Anyways, guys, that's it for this week's episode of Weekly Weird News. We had so much more for you to watch this week, but first, if you forgot to click the like button, do it now.
Come on.
Comment your favorite influencer animals that are still alive down in the comments below. And click the join button, hit the thank button. Just do whatever you want, but engage with the content in some way. And if you missed it, we got Ticketmaster potentially getting broken up. Ticketmaster and Live Nation.
Yeah, and Google's AI being fucking garbage.
Oh my God, because it's gotten so big online, people are posting some of the most insane results. Like the craziest results from Google are still being crowdsourced.
Yep.
So just on Twitter right now, it's amazing. But so we have that episode where we go over some of those. And we also have Scarlett Johansson being very justifiably upset at GPT.
GPT 4.0, yeah.
Check out those videos, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Taking B! Commandeer the capture zones! Keep the enemy out! C is in trouble! Requested. Okay, that's enough lives for your cause. Now you take some. We're taking C. We're claiming A. Odds are you're gonna win this. Good thing I already placed my bet. Oh, Ultra's ready. Capture zone is ours now. Zone B is in danger. Zone compromised. You won. You're welcome.
What I am doing here, you hopefully will see what I am doing here, is I have two different XDefiant videos. One is about XDefiant sucking, and one is about XDefiant being God's gift to man. And I'm gonna watch both of them. I'm gonna give my opinion on both of them, and they will probably be up as two separate videos on my second channel. So if you're watching these on YouTube, watch both of them, because you're gonna get two different sides of the coin. And I wanna hear what people have to say about them. This'll do, okay. I haven't seen this, so obviously don't know what he's gonna say. But this one is by Big Fry TV. It's called, Is XDefiant Worth Your Time? And then the thumbnail, it shows XDefiant trash with a question mark. So this one actually might not be hating on it, but we will see.
Trying my best to give XDefiant the time that I feel a AAA FPS deserves, to experience all the game has to offer, get a real hands-on with the game, go in depth with things like weapon customization and looking through the in-game store to really formulate an in-depth review. But if I can be honest, I can't stand to play this game for more than a match or two.
So it is gonna be a hate video. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted, because I want to hear why people dislike it and why people like it, and I'll give my opinions on it as we go.
I'm Alt F4ing because it's the quickest way out of the game.
Like, he really doesn't like it. Like, not at all. Not one bit.
I want to start this video off by saying I don't really give a shit if you like it or not. I'm not here to attack anybody. If you enjoy the game, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're getting it in. That's great. It's a free-to-play game, and if you can get some hours out of it and you fucking love it, that's great. For the last 3 years, I've watched XDefiant go from announcement to playtest to playtest to delay to playtest to delay to playtest.
I honestly think if XDefiant would have came out when the original beta did, and let's be honest, the game isn't that much different now, I would have been tremendously more successful. I think this is the game that needed to be shadow dropped and then just said, oh, there's no skill-based matchmaking. This is how it plays. We'll be working on it over the next year. It's in beta. And just drop it. And I think it would have done so much better.
I don't think I've ever seen a game publicly playtest as much as XDefiant has leading up to this launch, yet still has core issues with their design that have been present since day one of playing the fucking game. And I do feel like Frosty summed it up best here in this tweet. I put a tweet out saying, like, I don't want this video.
It is truly unfortunate because I don't think people really understand how much guys like us actually want COD competitors and or alternative. The game just ain't it.
To come off as me just being a fucking hater, because genuinely every time a playtest has happened, I have jumped back into the game to give it a chance, because for a lot of reasons, and I think I've explained it in past videos, I want this game to be successful. Regardless of what my opinion is of the game, I think their post-launch support is some of the best that we have seen in the industry for a lot.
So yes, I agree COD competitors are incredibly important, especially XDefiant, because it doesn't have skill-based matchmaking. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If this game does well and has longevity to it, there's a chance that Call of Duty listens to people and kind of takes a step back on skill-based matchmaking. The way things are going, people are already dropping off of the game. I think Call of Duty is going to use this as ammunition to double down on skill-based matchmaking. And I'm hoping we get more into this throughout.
Live service title for a free-to-play title. If they can get it right, they can get it right. I don't have to like the game, but I still want it to be successful. But Frosty put a tweet here and he says, it's truly unfortunate because I don't think people really understand how much guys like us actually want a COD competitor and or an alternative. He says this game just isn't it, and I feel the same way. It's just not that COD alternative for me. Personally, I think Shatterline is that COD alternative for me, but Shatterline is all but dead because people just don't want to give it the time of day for a lot of different reasons, and that's
I haven't even heard of that game.
Desync are a major issue that I've been seeing talked about.
So this is probably going to be the biggest thing that he talks about in this. Again, I haven't seen this video, but I'm guessing that this is going to be the biggest thing that he talks about and what everyone is talking about. Hit reg is just not it, and desync, getting shot around corners, dying around corners, that kind of thing is so prevalent in XDefiant, and that's a big problem for a AAA game. It's something that at this time you have to have right. Back in the day when everything was peer-to-peer on servers, this was a big problem, and if you were host, you didn't have that problem. If you weren't host, you did, or unless you lived like around the corner from the host. That's why LAN became a really big thing, because that was an issue. Now that we do not have peer-to-peer in Call of Duty, this is much less of an issue, and to be a competitor with the game, that's one thing that really has to be right.
Since their very first playtest, and I'm not sure how Ubisoft, a billion-dollar studio, puts out something with this much lag. With that said, I do think in time...
I don't have lag. That happens in COD still sometimes, just not very much. Like, not like it used to. But yes, it does still happen in COD.
They're gonna figure that out, but getting shot when you're clearly behind cover is something I'm just kind of over with from these major studios with so much money to invest in this tech, and they just, like, I've been playing games for 20 years and it still just feels fucked. Talking about those kind of issues in a video, though, is always going to be met with comments going, yeah, but they'll fix it. It's the first couple of days. Just give them time.
Okay, do you want to know the real reason why there won't be a Call of Duty killer anytime soon? There is an actual reason, and it's so clear that I don't see anyone talk about it. Call of Duty is so big. Let's say another game comes out that is as good or better than Call of Duty. Let's say XDefiant was that. let's say it is a better game, more people are playing it, it's still going to lose to Call of Duty, and here's why. Take one operator that they put into the game. Let's say Snoop Dogg. For that one operator, Call of Duty will have one person working on the narration for it. So in other words, the voice lines and the voiceover and things like that. They will have one person working on the art for it. They will have a marketing team working on that operator. They will have people working on the gameplay of that operator. They will have an animator doing the finishing moves. They will have graphic designers working on the bundle pictures. This is 6 people. 6 people working on one operator. That is one part or 1 week of a season, not to mention that they're probably coming out with more than that. That is just an operator. That's not gameplay or anything in between. Call of Duty is so big at this point and they funnel so much money into it, it is nearly impossible for other competitors to come up. Another game has to be as good or better than Call of Duty and supported as well as Call of Duty to actually compete with it. That is why Call of Duty, like, think about an actual Call of Duty competitor. Let's look at Warzone and let's look at Fortnite. The reason why Fortnite can still be better than Call of Duty is because they have the staff and people that are actually working on it and pumping out content at an equal or faster rate than Call of Duty. And yes, those games are very different, but I think you see my point.
Like I said, I mean, I'm 20 years into playing PvP and the shit is still just a major problem in all games, XDEFIANT being one of them. Talking about the game itself though, am I the only one who feels like I just booted up a 360 arcade game and went to town?
I've heard this complaint.
The game just feels dated in almost every aspect and not in a good way. The movement is...
I hope he explains this more.
Incredibly stiff. When you die, the camera just pulls back to a static death animation. Sometimes you get frozen in that animation. It's very weird. It's kind of lifeless. You have crouch sliding, which then you can use to elevate into a jump, which works well, I guess. The movement there is crackheady. So for those who like that arcade style movement, it's there. I don't think it's on the same level as Call of Duty personally. I think COD's player controller, in terms of like the smoothness of the animation transitions, the movement, I think is just, it's a better feeling game than XDEFIANT. There's no prone in this game too, which I think definitely lends itself.
So I've seen both things on this one. I've seen people say they like that there's no prone, and seen people say that they don't like that there's no prone. I think no prone makes it feel a little bit more arcadey, and to me, just to me, makes it feel a little bit cheaper, like they didn't want to build in the animation for that.
Itself to that feeling dated in comparison to other games like Call of Duty, but I also don't think this game is built for prone like that. It's more of like a hero shooter with a bunch of different abilities.
I don't disagree with that.
I think the way the visuals are built, which in my opinion are also fucking dated, we'll talk about that in a little bit, I don't think it would lend itself.
I don't necessarily think the visuals in this game are dated, they're just cartoony.
Well, to have prone
cel-shaded
anyway, so while that's not a problem, it's just something to bring up in comparison to Call of Duty, which everybody has been doing for years now. And I gotta say, like, playing them both, I don't really get the comparison. Recoil is a very weird thing to describe. I was streaming the other day and I said, like, the best way to describe it is if somebody is just like grabbing the side of your gun and pulling it towards them and then like letting go.
This is just recoil in a video game. This is not a complaint that I have.
It's got this weird side pull that, you know, you'd think would be described and explained with horizontal recoil stats on weapons, but the actual like gunplay just feels so stiff and weird. And the thing is, like, I know, I already know the amount of people that are just gonna comment and go, it's just a skill issue, you're just bad at the game. Look, I love a good crackhead shooter. I've played, you know, the Call of Duties, I've played games like Shatterline, I've played games like Iron Sight, I've played this. I think out of all of those games, like Iron Sight, Shatterline, Call of Duty, I do think XDEFIANT is the worst feeling shooter in terms of movement.
Really? See, I don't have the background of those other games to back that up, but wow.
Movement, player controller, and recoil, and just the gunplay itself, there's just something.
I don't think the gunplay is that bad, but the desync is bad.
That's really off about it. And I can get kills in this game. Every single game that I've played of XDEFIANT since it's come out, I've been at the top of my team every single time. but it just doesn't feel satisfying to get kills. Like, it doesn't feel satisfying to get kills. You die, you respawn, and it's just like, it's like we're going through the motions of a game that still has like another 4 years of figuring shit out. I don't know, man.
That's why I said, like, they still got stuff to figure out, but I feel like they should have just launched when they were in beta.
And I just don't get it. I do think one aspect of that
there's not a tax sprint next to Defiant.
Feeling soulless game feel is the visuals. I do think that the visuals, like, I think the game visually looks kind of terrible. Like, it does not look like a game that should have come out in 2024. Free to play game or not,
I see. I don't have. That's one complaint I don't have, but I've seen a lot of people say it.
$1 billion studio to Shatterline. Hell, compare this game, $1 billion studio, to a game like Iron Sight, which is a free-to-play Call of Duty alternative.
Okay, this game looks worse than XDefiant. I just want to be clear. Whatever this game that you just put up, it looks more realistic, but it looks worse. Look at how blocky everything looks. I don't agree with that one.
Like, that's what XDefiant is.
And the gameplay looks way worse too. So I can't agree with him on this one. The character in this game, whatever he's playing here, looks like he's running on a treadmill going backwards, so he's moving super slow.
But it's being made by one of the largest studios in the fucking world. I guess for me, I feel like I expect a little more. Look, I'm glad people are enjoying it.
You're saying you don't like the sliding in game? Again, that's I don't mind it.
I just think like everything about.
Another thing people are complaining about is with no skill-based matchmaking, they say that their lobbies are too good, which is hilarious. And then the other one is that bunny hopping is crazy. And yeah, I agree with that one. Bunny hopping is pretty.
This game is dated to fuck. Like, I know they've been working on it for quite a few years. This feels like I'm teleporting back to 2013 and not in a good way. Like I said, the UI, like navigating menus, like, look, I know Call of Duty's menus are
the UI in this game isn't great, but it's better than Call of Duty.
Garbage. They've been trash for years. I get it. They're convoluted. They're complicated. This game looks like something that like an asset flipper would put on the store for a couple of dollars. It's just so basic, and I'll be honest, it's kind of gross to look at. I like the simplicity of it, and I think they could get away with a facelift on that. Like, it just doesn't look fucking good. But I will say, navigating the menus, like I said, it's simple. It's straight to the point, which is something I think a lot of people have been looking for from a Call of Duty alternative.
There you go. He's saying something positive. I agree with you.
We don't need to go through a million different menus. We don't need to look at a bunch of different attacks.
UI looks kind of like Rainbow Six UI. I think there's a reason for that.
Attachments and camos that are split in a horizontal menu. I get it. I get it. This serves the purpose, but I just do think it's a fucking ugly looking UI. The HUD itself, when you're in game, I think is kind of terrible. It serves its purpose, yes, but it looks like something out of a 20.
So we're at the point where this guy clearly does not like this game, but I don't think anything with the UI in this is bad. It's simplistic.
2012 shooter, and I just don't understand it. The directional hit markers to show you where you're getting shot from, like, there's just like, I don't know, it feels like they just threw a bunch of shit together and was just like, hey, that functions. And like, I'm glad that it functions. At the end of the day, if you're somebody who like is so down bad when it comes to PvP that you just want something that works, you're gonna have fun here. You know,
that was bad aim.
I feel like maybe my bar for quality is just a little bit higher than what they're delivering. That being said, I said this on stream the other day too, as much as I don't fucking like this game, and I actually don't think I'm going to be back to it, I never ever want to write Ubisoft off in this regard, because as we saw with Rainbow Six Siege, that game went from kind of an okay, like, you know, functioning game back in 2015 when it launched, and they managed to take that and
this is where I disagree with what he's saying, and he hasn't even brought up the point yet, and I hope he does. Rainbow Six had its own realm. It was a more competitive, round-based, single life, fast time to kill shooter, which, yeah, was kind of like adding in a console version of Counter-Strike, something that didn't exist and people didn't do. This game has nothing like that. There is no reason why I should keep playing it. There's no differentiation between Call of Duty and this game. There's no differentiation between any other first-person shooters. There's nothing that makes me want to come back. And I hope he talks about this. If he doesn't, I will. Dopamine. This game just doesn't give me any dopamine for anything. There's nothing that feels rewarding in it.
Run with it and turn it into the behemoth PvP experience that it is now. And I think if they give XDefiant enough time and enough love, they could turn it into something that has a whole whack of polish on top of it. I just think for me personally, it's too dated to make me want to care about the game's future, which it sounds savage, but it just is what it is. I've had a lot of people come through the streams and ask me why I'm not playing XDefiant or like what are my thoughts on XDefiant. So I wanted to get a video out there, but personally, I think for me, it's filling a void in a market that I don't actually want to see filled. Like for me, I don't need
I don't agree with that.
To play Call of Duty from 2012, you know, with the stiffer movement and the more straightforward gameplay. I'm not.
Oh, actually, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I now understand what he's saying. I spoke too soon. He's saying I don't want a 2012 shooter. I want a 2024 shooter. That's better than Call of Duty. This game feels like a 2012 shooter. I understand. I actually agree.
Looking for that experience anymore. And I think that's why a lot of people are gravitating towards this game. You have no skill-based matchmaking, which I think is fucking awesome. I've noticed that in every game that I've played of XDefiant, it's been like a mix mash of different skills. And I think that's cool. For the people who are a little bit less skilled, you're playing on a team with better players and they're carrying you through. I think like just seeing it that does feel better. The main issues that I have with the game is just the fact that it just feels so
you're gonna get killed,
lifeless, and dated. And I know there's a lot of COD players who are frustrated with the way that the game is going and the way that franchise has shifted from just quality titles to algorithmic skill-based matchmaking and optimizing it so that your experience, it's just all algorithms and math to get you
comes down to money.
Be in the game, be in the ecosystem, and spend money. So I can understand the frustration there, and you're looking for an alternative. I just don't think that XDefiant delivers on the gameplay aspect for me, and that's just really unfortunate because there is a lot of content up front in a free-to-play title, something that we don't really see a lot of. You have 6 game modes and
I kind of actually
zone control,
agree with
domination,
this.
occupy.
I don't hate it as much as he does.
Maps to jump into at launch with plans of bringing, I believe it's 3 maps a season, which is just insane for a live service title, a free-to-play one at that, with bundles in the store that you can purchase for your cosmetic needs. It has a lot of good things going for it. I wish I loved the gameplay. And the thing is I know that they're already successful. I think they said they already had 2 million players play in the first 2 days.
It's a free-to-play game. That doesn't mean they're successful.
That's actually insane. I'm curious to see what the long-term, growth is of this title and where that player base, obviously the players are going to decline, but where is it going to end up? Is it going to be enough to keep the game running? I genuinely, as much as I don't like the game, I hope that they're successful because I think Ubisoft can deliver on multiplayer experiences that people actually want to play. And clearly there's a group of people clamoring for this kind of title. And I'm curious to see where it goes in the future. But with that said, guys, let me know what you think of XDefiant down below. Are you playing it? Are you fucking with it? Let me know why. Give me like 2 or 3 reasons why you're fucking with XDefiant or why you're not fucking with XDefiant. And let's have a conversation down below. This is one of those games where it's like, I think the game sucks, but I'm not really mad about it. You know what I mean? It's not a scam. It's not like taking your...
1 week after launch, XDefiant, 25,600K viewers. Where'd the other one go? I just saw it. Warzone, which is right underneath me, 27,400 viewers. 1 week after launch. 1 week.
Your money. It's not cheese ball shit. It's just a game that I just don't think is very good. And that's really what it comes down to. My name is Big Fry. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
He missed things. He missed things for sure. I think the biggest thing for me is that I need a reason to come back and play a game. I need something to be fun. I need something to be like, that was cool. I want to do that again. And XDefiant just doesn't have that. in my opinion. There's moments where I'm like, oh, I just shredded those people. That was fun. But at the end of the day, it's not like, oh, I need to level up 10 more times because then I unlock this. Twitch doesn't matter. I don't know why you go to that to see views. Why doesn't it matter? I can't go on Steam and see the numbers of players because it's on Ubisoft Connect. So those are the only numbers that I'm going to get. Unless there is a way to see the numbers, but I can't see that. But why would the Twitch numbers not matter? Like, for sure, it's means less than player count, but I don't understand why that wouldn't matter. Because one big streamer could have a big audience that could be the numbers. Okay, so do you think if a big streamer has a big audience and plays a game, do you think less people are going to play that game? No, probably that big streamer is going to probably, say they have 20,000 people. They might get 1,000 of those people to download and play that game. Or at least those 20,000 people could be interested. Maybe 5,000 of them or 2,000 of them are actually, I'm just saying calm down. But yeah, put it this way. If that was a month after the game came out, I would understand. But the point I'm getting at is there is no reason to come back and play the game. There's also no reason to come back and watch the game. Because what are you watching for? Waiting for someone to get a 5-man feed? Again, that's like 2012 stuff. I don't disagree with you that Twitch numbers, like, they don't mean anything compared to player numbers. But I think it says a lot a week after the game when less people are watching it than Warzone. And yeah, there's more of a reason to watch Warzone. You want to see people win. But still, there's no pull to have more. There's no pull to want to see more. And do I think the game plays horribly? No. I think it's a relatively good first-person shooter that gameplay-wise does give Call of Duty a little bit of run for its money. There's things that I really do like about it. It's just, the biggest thing to me isn't the netcode, it isn't the servers. The biggest thing to me is I want that pull to come back and play more of it. And to me, that just doesn't exist in this game. That's my opinion. But that was the negative video. Now,
when I try to explain to you, like, we are literally watching fascism unfold. And I don't mean like, oh, you're a fascist because you're a Republican. Like, I'm talking about old school, straight up, definitional, ultra-nationalist fascism. This is what I mean. I think we'll continue with our news coverage here and move on to the unconscionable war crimes that Israel is engaging in. Visions of hell. Wait, what? The Atlantic said published justification for the murder of Palestinian children today? That's not surprising. That's cool, man. Thank you to the Atlantic.
The Israeli airstrikes hit a small area of prefabricated huts surrounded by desert just after evening.
The editor-in-chief is a former IOF soldier? No. The editor-in-chief is a former Israeli occupying force jailer. Not just any kind of soldier, but also one that operated the Palestinian detention facilities. So it's even worse than just like a regular soldier. And it's a pretty bad... being a soldier in general in the IDF is like one of the worst things you can be. And there's like 8 different groups of people that are like a little bit worse than that. And he hits that one. He's like the torture guy.
Prayers last night.
Yeah, also, this conversation is so idiotic. Thank you, Central Committee, for bringing this up. I keep forgetting to mention this. Israel's trying to form an alliance with Saudi Arabia, which is a non-democratic, theocratic monarchy, as a matter of fact, ruling under a radical Wahhabism, which is far-right Sunni sect. It's not like they give a shit about religious extremism. They just want Palestine's land. Thank you. You're absolutely correct on this. They just want all the Palestinians there to die. They want them to get the away. They want them to go away. They want their lives to be miserable, so they leave, or they die if they don't leave. That's it. They're trying to provoke you, so you'll end up misspeaking or say a trigger phase. Then they'll clip you. Don't fall for it. Yeah, we'll look at the Christian Amon per piece in a little bit. The notion that Hamas are bad because they're bad is stupid. Here in Algeria, the FLN Front de Libération Nationale, was also labeled as a terrorist organization by the French occupation and their European allies. Now it's praised as a symbol of freedom. It's always the same shit. Yes, that's why I said the IRA as well. The IRA, the FLN, and also Mandela's party as well. Okay, the Viet Cong. Yeah, the ANC, the Viet Cong, the IRA. Every single instance. It is so weird that every single instance where there is a liberatory group, there's an emancipatory force that actually is violently trying to engage in an act of revolution, trying to violently engage in an act of emancipation, violently resisting against an unimaginable, untold amount of violence caused by the occupying entity under the legal structure. The enemies, they're always